5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
And he gets the shotgun snap, and he gets a block from Ham, and he sets up, he's hit, he fumbled the ball, and it's picked up on the play. It's Jared Verse at the 50, near sideline 40, foot race to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Touchdown, Rams!
Kevin Harlan on Westwood One. Who else? That was a Jared Verse 57-yard scoop and score. Made it 17-3. The Rams were in cruise control. They put this thing away basically in the first half. The defensive line was all over Sam Darnold. 6 sacks in the first half. And the Rams are moving on to play your Philadelphia Eagles. Good morning, Pearl.
Great. I get to see a fully realized young defense and a really, really good offense. I seriously, I wanted the Commanders or the Vikings. I did not want the Rams.
I can see why, because they look pretty dominant. Yeah. But I think the big story here, before we turn the page and start talking about the divisional round, that's the last we're going to see from Sam Darnold. It's been a fun season. It was a fun story until it became kind of a sad story. In the last 2 weeks, not only has Sam Darnold turned back into a pumpkin, he has cost himself probably a long-term deal, lots of money. And to be honest, I don't even think the Vikings are going to bring him back now. They're probably hoping and praying that J.J. McCarthy's knee will heal. McCarthy was always going to be plan A because he's the first-round draft pick. Yeah. They've made the investment in him. You've got your bridge quarterback back there with Daniel Jones. I feel for Sam Darnold because even though I've been extremely critical of him, I always thought he handled himself very well in New York when things were just crumbling and burning all around him. I feel bad for him, but he has just not played well the last 2 games. And if I'm a team that's desperate for a quarterback, I don't want to tie myself to Sam Darnold because what is he going to do? He's going to put you right in the middle, Perloff. He's going to be good enough to win you a couple of games, but not nearly good enough to make you an actual contender or threat in the postseason. And so Sam Darnold does nothing for me if I am looking for a quarterback.
Well, I don't understand. There are a lot of teams who don't even have a Sam Darnold. So you'd rather go with an Aiden O'Connell and win 3 games?
Well, if I have a long-term plan where I want to get into the draft and I look at the quarterbacks who are playing in the divisional round, and outside of Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, I'm watching top 10, top 7, top 2 picks. It's
so so this is a process thing. You don't want Sam Darnold.
He'll mess up your process.
Honestly, what I'm hearing is you don't want Sam Darnold because he's too good.
Well, he's too good, but not good enough. Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
So you think he's the ultimate limbo quarterback?
Exactly. So why am I paying
$100 million? 14 games. There's nothing limbo about 14 games.
Yeah, I'm surprised because you're such a system guy and you're such a Kevin O'Connell guy.
I'm all about tanking, but I just think that it's
product of the system, not about tanking. I'm saying you're such a guy product of the system. You don't look at Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and when TJ Hawkinson came back after his injury and think,
I told you, Kevin O'Connell is a very good offensive coach. But
so what am I giving Darnold $100 million?
I do think though, $100 million, that's like pocket change for a quarterback. How many years am I getting? For 3 years, $100 million? I mean,
that makes no sense.
There are 3 years, $100 million is bottom of the barrel price for a quarterback. That's nothing. Like he'd be one of the.
Well, that's what Baker Mayfield got. $100 million with $50 million.
So that's what Sam Darnold could definitely get a Baker Mayfield offer. The thing is, Darnold's 27 years old, and even last night he was horrible. Okay, he completely terrible. He panicked.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
He was drowning yesterday.
He couldn't complete the short passes. That's when you knew things were bad. Yeah. But he unfurled a couple passes when they went to hurry up. I was like, ooh, that was sick.
That's the bar now? You're down by 3 scores. You can get a couple passes in the direction of Jaden Naylor.
I'm not saying that he physically, I was like, he's got all the tools. I've said this before. If you had an open combine, like an open workout, you put J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold together, 32 out of 32 coaches not knowing who they were would take Sam Darnold. Like
yes.
He's
two teams have already been fooled by this. The Jets and the Carolina Panthers.
Well, the Panthers didn't pay up that big, did they?
Well, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's on you. If you want to be a general manager who is going to eventually get fired because signing Sam Darnold is not fixing your quarterback problem. Not in this day and age. Fixing your quarterback problem is getting your franchise quarterback. And Darnold's not going to do that.
But you can't have 32 franchise quarterbacks. There are teams that are going to have to take bridge quarterbacks, or they're going to have a veteran come in to just provide stability. Not everybody is going to have the next Josh Allen.
Okay, but here's the thing. That guy, that's not Baker Mayfield money. That's Gardner Minshew money or whatever. Sam Darnold is a high-end backup. That's his future. So
there's no way Sam Darnold is not starting in this league next year.
Well,
that'd be crazy.
Then that's a function of a bad league because Sam Darnold is not. Or if your goal is just to be an also ran,
they just won 14 games. I understand what you're saying, but there's nothing also ran about what he did. The guy threw 35 touchdowns and 12 picks this year. That's one of the. You said in the pre-show, well, maybe Daniel Jones can do that. Daniel Jones is not throwing 35 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns.
Listen, before this year, I don't think people thought Sam Darnold was ever going to throw 35 touchdowns. You put a good team around him, and I'm not saying that Daniel Jones would have the same season. All I'm saying is that Sam Darnold is no longer so good you can't let him out of the building for the Vikings, which is what we heard 3 weeks ago.
That's a very good point.
This is J.J. McCarthy's team. And he's going to have to either go to Germany or go to Mars or whatever to get his knee back ready to go because he's now plan A. And I think for Darnold, he cost himself a lot in these last two games. Who it's good for, I hate to do this and be so callous about it, but who it's good for is probably more bridge guys like Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins to catch on and continue as opposed to, like, if I'm EJ's New York Jets, and I know Sam Darnold can't ever go back to the Jets.
Right.
But if I'm a team like that, if I'm the Giants, or if I'm a team that is looking for a quarterback, Sam Darnold doesn't do anything for me. All he does is either clog the lane for the next guy or makes it so when I actually get into games where there's actual stakes, look at what happened. The last two games where he actually had stakes, something to play for, he was awful. He was awful. And I can't do that to my franchise.
Yeah, I mean, what's your other? So who's the starting quarterback for the Giants next year?
Manny. I have no idea.
Who's the starting quarterback?
But not $100 million Sam Darnold, no way.
Who's the starting quarterback for the Raiders next year?
I think the Raiders could be in a full free fall tank.
Yeah, I don't know. It's easy for us to sit here and say lose every game. I think it's harder when you're in the building. Who's the quarterback for, you look around these teams that could actually there aren't that many teams. There's a lot of young guys. Who is the Jets quarterback?
Yeah, the Steelers quarterback. We have a lot of questions here, but I don't think Sam Darnold's the answer for a lot of these.
Well, let's take the Steelers. Like, you don't think a big, tall, young Sam Darnold be interesting to them?
What's the difference between Sam Darnold? They should have just kept Pickett. You could have developed Pickett
in a million years, Kenny Pickett is not having a 35 touchdown, 12 pick. He came in for the Eagles and immediately threw it to the other team. Like, he's not Sam Darnold.
Okay, we'll put Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the team, and maybe it's a little bit better. I'm just saying he's not such a serviceable upgrade, I don't think, for that. So you've had that guy in your building.
I think Sam Darnold's better than Kenny Pickett.
You think the Steelers want him now? Maybe at a bargain? It will be a bargain now, I guess.
You have to understand, Baker Mayfield is a gigantic. You said, like, oh, he's not going to get Baker Mayfield money. That is peanuts for a quarterback. I mean, you're saying, can he get paid in the bottom 10 of quarterbacks? Of course.
Okay, but here's the thing about Baker Mayfield. I think it's a little bit of a different calculus. We're talking about the future of Sam Darnold after a 9-sack game yesterday. He was bad. Vikings were completely thrown off their game because of the Rams defense, or Sam was just bad. Anyway, the thing about Baker Mayfield, I think it's very different in Tampa, where you're coming off of Tom Brady just turned you into a Super Bowl champion out of thin air and what made you a perennial playoff team for his second act. And now you just need somebody who's going to keep you around the playoffs. You got a winnable division. And I don't see many people being that upset about Baker Mayfield and their loss to the Commanders. Like, you're just happy you have someone who kind of keeps this window sort of open a little bit, right?
Right.
You're going to a place like the Giants. Again, it would not be the Jets because that bridge has been burned. The Steelers, you're coming in with serious expectations here.
Well,
right?
Maybe the Steelers stop having those serious expectations. I mean, the Steelers have realistic expectations. They're going 10-7, right? Sam Darnold.
Okay,
you're
you
right
want to pay
about
$100
that.
million for 10-7
well,
and more first
$100
round playoff
million.
exits?
I'm looking at some of the
Might as well
contracts.
just keep Russ.
The total value. So Derek Carr is at $150 million. Baker's at $100 million for 3 years. Geno's at $75. Like, he's in the Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew lane. And actually, Sam Darnold comes right after them right now. So that's where he is. And
but
that's
he was
fine.
being talked about as Sam the Savior, and that's gone.
But he's always been talked about as he's going to get a Baker Mayfield contract. And I don't think he played as badly that he's going to lose the Baker Mayfield money. Like, because it's just that's not much of a risk for a team, right? Like, you're not putting all your eggs in the basket like the Browns did with Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Yes, you're right about
So
that. No, the $250 million is not the same. Yes, you're right.
There's more breathing room. Like,
yeah.
I think people are fascinated by the age and the arm talent. I do.
I think that
coaches are
fascination has
shallow.
died over the last 2 weeks.
I don't think so. I think coaches always think, oh, I could coach that out of him. I can get him to throw the ball away. But it also, too, you look at some of we just playing the highlights of the TV above our head.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of room for him to step up in the middle to throw the ball away. Like, he did hold on to it too long. Some of the sacks were horrible and totally on him. But the pocket did not hold up very well for him. That's a huge problem.
Huge problem. And are you going to be going to a team where you're walking into a great offensive line? I mean, how many teams in the league actually have an offensive line where a guy can sit and pat the ball for 2.5, 3 seconds? It's so rare. The other thing, too, about a coach will say, oh, I can get the best out of Sam Darnold. We just saw that. Kevin O'Connell just did that.
Yeah.
And they did get the best out of Sam Darnold until they actually needed him. They actually needed him to win that game against Detroit, and he played bad. They actually needed him to keep their playoff hopes alive, and he played worse.
They needed him to beat Green Bay, and he played great.
Okay. Well, maybe Green Bay wasn't as good as we thought because they just went to Philadelphia. And
I mean, Detroit's a way better team. The Rams are definitely the Rams, and I said it yesterday. Like, Rams, the second half of the season have been, since the Nakua came back, they're as good as any team in the league. There's just no way. I mean, they started out 1-4, and just you can't judge them from the beginning of the season. The Rams are right there. The Rams are. I can't believe the Rams are such big underdogs against the Eagles. Like, that team that the Vikings lost to yesterday, very, very good because they had this young defense that just got better and better and better and better. The Vikings lost to two very, very good teams, and I think the Lions and the Rams are very similar teams. I think there's no shame in these losses. Like, they lost to better teams. I don't think it was just Darnold. Do you think the Vikings were as good? I mean, it seemed like a home game, by the way. It was still a road game. I know everyone was wearing purple in the Arizona crowd. Yeah, I don't think, like, this is not like, oh, my God, Sam Darnold and the Vikings blew it. Like, did you really think, like, they were going to the Super Bowl this year?
You win 14 games. You get a game where you're favored.
But they won 14 games. But again, now I'm going back.
This was not 2 years ago.
Their win margin was like, they won a bunch of games by
one score.
Yeah.
And I was told that, hey, don't read so much into that. It wasn't luck. It was, it was this, that, and the other. Look, Kevin O'Connell, he's going to win Coach of the Year.
Yeah, they still should do that.
So you can't change the expectations now after they lost.
There isn't a single NFL expert alive who picked the Vikings to come out of the NFC. That just didn't exist. That was not there.
There were a lot who picked them to win that game last night.
Yeah, and what was the spread? It was 2.5.
It ended up being 2.5.
Yeah.
And
so it was a close spread, but nobody thought that, like, the Vikings were not primed to go on a big super run.
So then what does 14 wins mean?
14 wins was remarkable for a team that a lot of people did not predict to get in the playoffs. Like, I had no idea they were going to be a playoff team. They're in the hardest division in the NFL, and they just fought and played really well. They're way above expectations this year. Did you pick them to go to the playoffs? EJ was telling us they were good. And we're like, you're crazy. Your brother worked for the team. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Nobody thought the Vikings were going to do anything this year. Sam Darnold was their quarterback, for God's sake.
Well, you're going to move the goalpost now. You're going to move the goalpost.
Oh, wait. You're telling me I'm moving the goalpost? Like, you're saying this was disappointing. This was a crazy successful year for the Vikings.
Okay, but you can't look at that game last night, what happened in Week 18, and then what happened in that game last night, and all of a sudden say, wow, Vikings fans, you were just lucky to be there. That's not how they felt. That's not what people were saying in the media. It is not, Perloff.
But they weren't saying the Vikings are some super team that is going all the way. I think everyone knew the Vikings. They needed the number one seed.
2 years ago. Nobody thought that. The advanced metrics told you they were a much better team than 2 years ago. That team that lost to the Giants.
But their win margin was really thin. They were like 11th in point differential. They were 6th in Super Bowl odds. Like, I don't think they were some super team. Again, especially after the Lions lost last week, that sort of exposed them.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there was a game. They beat the Jags 12-6 earlier in the year. The Detroit Lions are not beating the Jags 12-6. They're beating them 53-6. So I just think that the Vikings were a good team. Go back to August. Did you really, if I told you the Vikings are going to win 14 games and go out on the first round and Sam Darnold's going to throw 35 touchdowns, would you have taken it? Of course.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you that the conversation has now changed.
It changed in midseason, but that's moving the goalpost.
And the conversation now has changed about Sam Darnold because of how he played the last 2 weeks. There was an idea that J.J. McCarthy was going to get traded away to EJ's Jets, to Manny's Giants, to someplace that needed a quarterback because Sam Darnold's here now, everyone, and he's got this thing. Can't let him out of the building. I'm telling you, that is no longer the case. And I see that the chat is mad at me, mad about this whole thing. You know, got him to Weedo Pat, got him to the playoffs. That's not good enough for another contract. I'm seeing the outrage here. You know, I'm telling you, I think what's going to happen, which is I think Sam Darnold's market deflated in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll get Baker Mayfield money.
And I don't think he's going to be on the Vikings, that's for sure. Because they could have franchise tagged him, which is what I said to do. But now you're going to pay $40 million for Sam Darnold after what you saw in the last 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get him to not hold out on a franchise tag, definitely. Why $40 million for 1 year of a quarterback, and then you're out of the contract the next year? What's the risk in that?
Because I think I could probably get that same season with someone who's going to cost me $10 million, like Sam cost them this year. I don't need $40 million to run Kevin O'Connell's offense and then lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's not $40 million.
$40 million for a quarterback, though? Like, what do you rank, except for the guys of the rookie deal, like you're near the bottom. For a veteran, you're right near the lowest. I know it's supposed to be the average of 4 years, but those guys have longer term. Like, nobody gets quarterbacks for 1 year. So that's the problem. Like, the problem with quarterbacks is you have to pay them and you have to keep paying them. Like, Tua's deal, it just kills the Dolphins. Dak's deal kills the Cowboys.
Right.
Deshaun Watson kills the Browns. 1 year isn't killing anybody. Like, even Daniel Jones, that 2-year contract, didn't really kill the Giants. They're right back in the quarterback market. As long as it's short term, they're fine. I would seriously consider bringing him back because McCarthy had 2 knee surgeries. He's young. I don't know. I would not throw him out as easily as you would.
855-212-4227. All right, Sam Darnold, what do you think? Does he deserve another contract? Should the Vikings keep him around? I think it's happy trails. See you, pal. Thanks for those 14 wins, bud. See ya backing up Brock Purdy.
Oh, I mean, backing up Brock Purdy? Yeah, right. He could play left-handed and play better than Brock did this year.
855-212-4227. Okay. Does Sam Darnold get a starting job next year? And who is it with? There's a lot of quarterback-needy teams. Couldn't be me. We've got a lot to do, including some major sound the alarms coaching news. I felt kind of like an idiot when this news came out. I was like, it was right there the whole time. We talked about it. We kind of abandoned it. We kind of forgot about it. Here it is. Right on our doorstep. Deion.
Do you believe that?
And the Cowboys. See, Manny and I are on the same page. Lots to do. Let's do it. Okay, Pro. Prize picks, our obsession.
Yes.
Can I tell you how much fun I had with this last night? So first of all, I'm dead on because I took Sam Darnold's less than yardage. I switched my pick up at the last minute, but I still took the Josh Hart less than 9.5 rebounds. So thank you, Manny Rodriguez, for texting the moment that Josh Hart went over his rebound total. That was a lot of fun. All right, I wasn't a winner last night, but I'm back at it today because this is the most fun I've had betting daily fantasy sports. It is so simple to use. It's available in 40-plus states, including California and Texas. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app for a reason. It's the show's obsession.
Yeah, I'm doing my research right now. Let's start with the fact that Russell Westbrook's on Denver. PrizePicks now accepts major credit cards for quick and easy deposits into your account. Join PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can play in 40-plus states now, Maggie, including California and Texas. All you do is download the PrizePicks app today and use code MNP, and you get a $50 credit instantly when you play $5. That's code MNP on PrizePicks to get a $50 credit instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game, must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Mand P.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. I assume that is a precursor to a Dallas Cowboys conversation. One quick final note on Sam Darnold.
And we can talk about Sam all morning. We're asking if he's going to have a starting job again next year.
Sam Darnold last night, 25 for 40, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Why does that line not tell anything about the story of last night's game? But I will say this. What killed me about Sam Darnold last night was he was really having trouble in the short passing game, which is he could have padded those stats even more. But once every, 5 passes, he just throws a pass. I'm like, whoa, what was that? Like, I don't think there are a lot of guys who have the arm talent that Sam Darnold does. There's one play where he threw to Jordan Addison on the sideline, and Jordan Addison couldn't quite jump up for it. He probably should have kept running. It was a gorgeous throw. It was an incompletion, but Sam Darnold this year, again, all year long, he did the same thing. Struggled, and like 3 touchdowns. They'd make these huge chunk plays to make up for all the kind of inaccuracies. So it wasn't actually that different than a lot of Sam Darnold games. They just didn't have the big strike plays. The Rams did a good job on Jefferson, I think, and the plays were taking way too long to develop. They couldn't establish a running game because they were behind. A lot went wrong. I can squint and the same with Carolina. Like, there was times where Sam Darnold would make a play, and the Jets, where he's just an unusual bad quarterback in my sense that he makes these really wow throws. Now, a lot of quarterbacks do not make those wow throws. Like, I think he's built a little differently than your average bad quarterback. I just think he's taller, better arm, faster. You know what killed me last night? Why didn't he run ever? He just did not.
He was being engulfed.
But there had to be a lane. There had to be a lane where somewhere there were times where he could have run. I thought he wasn't looking to run.
But he's not really a running quarterback.
But he's got speed. Like, he should be. You're right. He's not a running quarterback, but I felt like he left some opportunities because he's kind of a fast guy, right? Like, he was very, very mobile at USC. I think, and even like the slow guys, like if they're over pursuing you, you got to get out of there. And he wasn't last night. I mean, you saw it. Troy Aikman's like, throw the ball, get out of there, throw the ball. And he just could not do it. He totally panicked.
Yeah, well, that's it. He is an inconsistent quarterback when he feels any kind of pressure. And Aaron Glenn in week 18 dialed up a blitz, and it looked like Sam Darnold hadn't played football before. So the Rams were all over him. And that's it. And I'd rather take a consistent quarterback than one that gives me a wow play every 25 throws. You know?
I think I take I'm kind of into the wow guy, though. It depends who I am.
You like backup quarterbacks.
Like, it depends where my expectation is. Like, yes, do you want a consistent guy, solid? Like, do you want Kirk Cousins, who's just going to sort of chip down the field? Or do you want to take your risk with a younger, bigger arm Sam Darnold? Is
there a plan C that I can opt into?
I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins, when he was healthy, was good quarterback. Like, not everybody's getting Lamar Jackson, Maggie. There's not 30 MVP candidates around. Like, some teams just need a good quarterback to win some football games.
You realize the irony of picking out Lamar Jackson there in a draft where Sam Darnold went 3rd and Lamar Jackson went 31st. Like, people have been tantalized with Sam Darnold's arm strength and all the tools you just said. And meanwhile, he's just not that good, guys. He's bridge quarterback for life. And you thought that it was going to be different because the Vikings had this really good year, but when push came to shove, he's got limitations. So I'd rather take at least I know the ceiling on Aaron Rodgers has a shot to be super high if I'm looking for 1 year. I'd rather go pie in the sky than go Sam Darnold's going to be just good enough to win me some games to get me out of the draft where I really need to get a quarterback. He's going to be just good enough to play me out of the top 5.
Who is the Giants quarterback next year?
I don't know.
Who's the Raiders quarterback next year?
You want Sam Darnold now?
Yes,
I would take Sam. It's tough to ask them, though, because they're so starved for competence. But
I think there are franchises that need Sam Darnold. I understand. It's not like they're getting. It's not like when Peyton Manning was a free agent. But I do think a lot of people would take Sam Darnold on a Baker Mayfield, a cheap deal that gives you a lot of flexibility moving forward.
I don't know. In the chat here, Daily, Stafford has no problem beating the blitz. Good quarterbacks do that. Pine Needle, tremendous arm talent, does not process quick enough to be a starter in the NFL. Processing speed is the number one skill needed, and that's something Sam Darnold's never really had. So there you go. I don't know, Manny, Bogusch, you guys want to answer Perloff's question? He keeps asking who's going to be the Giants quarterback. Is it Sam Darnold after last night?
It's not Sam, or it's not J.J. McCarthy now either.
Yeah, well, that you can.
I mean, the
kiss that
Vikings
dream
shot that
goodbye.
report down immediately anyway. That was never going to happen.
I mean, you can say it was never going to happen.
That GM took him in number 10. No GM drafts a quarterback at number 10 and then trades him away
to get the number 3 pick the next year, if you figured out Sam Darnold's your guy.
I mean, that's never really happened, though. Josh Rosen got cut at Arizona, but that's because they had the number 1 pick. It'd be unusual for a GM to put his reputation on the line to draft JJ McCarthy and just give up on him.
I would agree. I don't know what the percentage of it happening was, but now it's not happening. If it was 1%, it's now 0.
Yeah, and I think, the Vikings were a 14-win team, right? So if they go on a massive run, I think there definitely was a chance that was happening.
Well, yeah, but they might have
going to the Super Bowl.
But did they immediately shoot that down?
Well, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah,
but
they
make that
playoffs. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to.
If they won the Super Bowl, I hear you, but that team was not winning the Super Bowl. And did anybody? Seriously, you guys are doing, and to me, Maggie, you're doing revisionist history. Like 3 weeks ago, even before the Lions game, there was not a lot of Super Bowl buzz around the Vikings. There just wasn't. They had this gaudy record, but it was so thin. Like they just won so many close games where the Lions just were wagon.
I know, but you told me that they beat the Packers, so obviously they're a good team. That shows they're a good team. And I think also, I think that's not correct because that Week 18 was a winner-take-all for the number 1 seed. And so you have the number 1 seed in the NFC, and you're telling me you have no shot? And this was different than the 12-4 Vikings that lost to the Giants. This was a much better defense, first of all. You had Addison. You did not have Addison on that.
In
on
Week
that
17,
team.
even when they beat the Packers and Sam Darnold got on everyone's shoulders in the locker room, did it really feel like, we're going to see this team go to the Super Bowl? I think we disagree about this. I think even then there was like, this is a nice story, but show me one expert who said this team could go to the Super Bowl. It just didn't exist.
That's fine. But I'm not giving $100 million to a nice story and tying myself for multiple years to a nice story. I don't want to do that because whether you say this is good for the Vikings, they outkicked their coverage this year, whatever you want to say, that can't be the goal. The goal has to be you've got to be as competitive as possible so that the Lions and the Packers don't boat race you. And by the way, the Bears might too. So you got to keep pace. And
that's not scaring me. But yeah. Okay. You're Dr. Eviling this number with Sam Darnold. You know, in the movie Austin Powers, where Dr. Evil holds the world hostage, he goes, $1 million, $100 million. You're like, I'm not spending $100 million on a quarterback. That's the equivalent of Dr. Evil's. That is nothing. That makes him like that's high end backup money right now.
He made $10 million this year.
Yes, 100 for 1 year, $100 million for 3 years, and he is the lowest paid starting quarterback in the NFL.
That's why I don't think he's a starter.
I'm just saying, you and I disagree. You're like, I'm not giving him $100 million. Like that's nothing. Like Sam Darnold.
But your bridge quarterbacks don't get $100 million. That's what I'm saying. Because you don't want to tie him to a lot of years. So I don't want to give him years, and I don't want to give him money. So how does he get to $100 million?
3 years, $100 million. That means you can cut him after 2 for 65.
But I have JJ McCarthy. What am I do? Why would I do that?
Well, I don't know. I think somebody else will give him Baker Mayfield deal. I don't think the Vikings will not. You're right. They'll try and tag him if they want to keep him, and then his agent will be like, "Don't tag me. I want to go get that Baker Mayfield deal."
I don't think he's getting tagged.
Right. No, I think he gets a Baker Mayfield kind of contract. Like that's a bridge deal now. $100 million for 3 years is not starting NFL quarterback money. It'd be at the lowest end possible. Also, by the way, what about the Seahawks? I mentioned Geno.
Yeah.
Who's their quarterback? That's a really interesting question too. There are a lot of like teams that are not going to get a superstar quarterback who might want Sam Darnold. Is that a sell or what?
Fewer today.
Yeah, which is fine. I think he has to leave Minnesota altogether now. As long as, and obviously they have the best feel of the McCarthy knee situation. As long as they think he's going to be healthy for next year, Sam's got to go.
Like the city limits. Like he's got to pack up and go.
Right. He can't become the backup now because then the second McCarthy struggles, then you live in a world where people like put Sam back in. Let Daniel Jones be your backup and do the McCarthy experiment next year as opposed to since you couldn't do this year.
Well, why can't you just keep Darnold and say McCarthy's coming off a knee injury and he's still developing?
I don't like drama. I don't need McCarthy having Sam Darnold coming off a 14-win regular season sitting behind him.
Oh, I took this a different way. I thought you're like, because Sam Darnold played so bad the last 2 weeks, like he's got to get out of town. The fan base shows up with pitchforks or something.
No, I don't like backup quarterback drama. So I want my guy to not put any real pressure on especially a young guy like this. So if they know McCarthy's healthy to be their guy next year, then Sam's got to be gone.
That's funny. Your franchise won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback.
But that being said, if Darnold
But
goes,
no one wanted Jeff Hostetler to play over Phil Simms.
But he did start the next year. But anyway, yeah.
Okay, but
one thing about the Vikings, McCarthy is coming off an injury and he's super young. They might have to if Darnold leaves, they might have to get another veteran bridge quarterback.
They've got Daniel Jones. That's why he's there.
Yeah, but would they I mean, I keep saying, would they look at Rodgers?
I mean, if you want drama.
I mean, if that's because JJ McCarthy can't play at the beginning of next year, then you keep Sam.
But they sit in a division where the Green Bay Packers sat Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. I don't think they'd be terrified of sitting McCarthy another year. He's just very, very young.
Yeah, and I didn't like him to begin with in the first place, but I think if you've committed to him by taking him. So if he's gonna be your guy, if you wanted to be your guy next year, I don't think you'd help him by having Sam Darnold sitting behind him.
Yeah.
The other thing too, it was a different world when Rodgers was sitting behind Favre. There wasn't the rookie salary, there wasn't the rookie wage scale in the way it is. Remember Sam Bradford, thank you, Manny, could hold out for $50 million before he ever stepped on a field. It's a different calculus. Now you want to win with the rookie quarterback if you can.
They just did it again with Jordan Love.
They paid him though.
Wow, they sort of did a low-end 2-year, $26 million extension.
And then what they do last offseason.
Right. But he's
one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks.
But you said that they waited 3 years on Love, right? It was a 3 or 2.
It was 3.
The deal, but that weird deal, they changed it to where they could get out or they could keep him it was a smart move by them.
But in essence, they did the exact same thing with Jordan Love that they did with Aaron Rodgers.
Right, but that's also they weren't planning on Aaron Rodgers winning 2 more MVPs.
Yeah, I mean,
after they took Jordan
they weren't
Love.
planning on Brett Favre being relevant for when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. I didn't think Favre had 3 good years. He was on the decline.
Right, but the philosophy is different now. I think in a perfect world, teams want to win when their quarterback's still cheap.
But I'm just saying the Vikings.
That was not in the thought process back when Favre and Rodgers were doing this.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think the Vikings see the Packers do it with Love and be like, you know what? They can wait another year on McCarthy. I mean, they might get a veteran.
Okay, but think about it. You're keeping the seat warm for a veteran who's not winning MVPs. Like Aaron Rodgers forced their hand. I don't think they wanted to keep Rodgers for 3 more years. They wanted him for 1 year and then let him go and have Jordan Love. It's just Rodgers made him all of a sudden put together these all-time seasons, and they had to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, same kind of dynamic happened with Favre. I'm just saying, 2 years is Mahomes sat for a year. I don't think sitting 2 years is some gigantic, huge problem with J.J. McCarthy. And I don't think anyone, we've never even seen J.J. McCarthy throw 30 passes in a game. He's a bit of an unknown.
That's true. Apparently, we had a lot to say about Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. We got a coaching situation going on in Dallas, Bogusch.
All your headlines are sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
You can run.
The Rams brought their entire game day experience with them to Arizona, including their DJ, their mariachi band. They organized buses for fans from L.A. to Glendale. And the Cardinals were nice enough to paint the field with Rams logos and colors. And then the team did its part on the field.
1st and 10 from the 13-yard line. Stafford, cool as can be, takes the snap, looking left, comes off that read, sidearm throw, to the 9, to the 5, to the end zone! Touchdown, Davis Allen! Touchdown, L.A.!
Matt Money Smith on Rams radio. Touchdown LA with 15 seconds to go before halftime, giving the Rams a 24-3 edge on the Vikings in our last wildcard game. It wasn't as close as the 27-9 final. Head coach Sean McVay playing through the tragedies back at home.
Once we got here, I think that offered, just a chance to kind of exhale. Now let's lock in. Let's all be in the same place. Let's have 2 really good days of preparation, and then let's peak at the right time, and our guys certainly did that. It seems like we've been here for a while. It seems like we were waiting on this game for a long time, and this Philly game will come really quickly.
That Philly game is Sunday afternoon.
I feel like if Sean McVay is anywhere for 5 minutes, he feels like he's been there a long time. It seems like someone who always has to be on the go.
I also mixed up my LA announcers. That was JB Long on that Rams highlight. The Vikings, meanwhile, they go home after 14 wins, crashing into back-to-back thumpings from the Lions and Rams. Not the ending that Kevin O'Connell expected.
We've got the right kind of things going on in this organization, but we've got to find a way to play better as a team, complement each other, and do the things we need to do to win games against the class of the NFL. And that's what we're going to go back to work and do.
And on top of Donald, O'Connell needs an extension or a new contract or some form of payment this offseason too, right?
Some form of payment. Like
PayPal.
Apple Pay.
Something. He takes Venmo.
Cash App.
They teased us last night. Reports that Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders spoke after the Cowboys divorced Mike McCarthy earlier yesterday. Then Deion did confirm the chat, but said he loves Boulder and those Buffs. NBA last night, the Spurs spoiled the Lakers' return to LA 126-102. Wemby with 23 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. And the Warriors lost in Toronto 104-101. Golden State has dropped 4 of 5. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thanks a lot. You're holding up nicely there.
Yeah, that's debatable.
You and Troy, same.
No sympathy for Troy last night. I had it. But a lot of people were mad that he was even working.
Oh, really? He held up well, I thought. His voice was definitely compromised, but he made it.
It didn't bother me much, yeah.
I saw some tweets just take a sick day, have a cough drop.
I mean, I don't know how sick he was or if he was contagious, but I kind of like it when an announcer kind of sounds a little worn. Like sometimes like a rapper or a singer, sometimes they sound a little better kind of when they're a little worn. Like you'll hear I was sick when I recorded that song. I'm like, that's why your voice sounds like that. It's awesome.
Tom Brady, the best game he had early in the season when he was struggling was that game where he lost his voice a little bit. They're like, okay, maybe I can relate to this guy a little more than it did. Yeah, I agree with you. Like there is something like Madden's voice was always seemed like he was dying.
Yeah, I feel great. Coach, it's like Doc Rivers' voice. It's like sandpaper at this point.
Exactly.
The coach, if your coach doesn't sound like crap, then he's not working hard enough.
Yeah. Did you even coach the game? That's funny, EJ. You like when a singer is not at the top of their game, like you want Pavarotti on an off day?
I mean, it depends on the kind of singer. Maybe not someone who's not Mariah Carey, but again, I think of rappers. There are a lot of rappers who have performed or have songs where their voice sounds a little weird, and they'll say, "Yeah, I was kind of sick when I recorded that," but actually, when I went back and listened, I liked how my voice sounds, so I just kept it.
Yeah,
and usually those songs sound better.
We need to introduce you to a little-known artist you may have heard of, Bob Dylan. He might be someone for you.
Rock star, my two favorite songwriters, Lou Reed and Bob Dylan, had the worst voices on earth. Like a rock star with a good voice is terrible. Like nobody wants a rock star to be able to sing. Like you might as well just get rid of that guy immediately. Every great rock star couldn't sing.
So you didn't like Eddie Vedder?
Eddie Vedder's voice is garbage. Like he's like my daughter is a really good singer. Like she can't even listen to Eddie Vedder. She's like, he's so off key.
Well, she couldn't sing Daughter or Jeremy, so we're even.
Maybe she can. I don't know.
Probably not.
Eddie Vedder's in the Bob Dylan, like you can't even understand half the words.
Who are these
like
people?
in Yellow Ledbetter? What the heck is he talking about?
Sit this one out. No, Manny, you're big. You found Leonard Skinner. So now you're.
Oh yeah, big time. I listened to all the Leonard Skinner albums.
Leonard Skinner happened 30 years before the Pearl Jam. It's at least 20.
You're also wearing a Sonics hat today, and I would argue that if you have a Sonics hat, you have to have some cursory Pearl Jam knowledge.
Sean Kemp.
No, close enough.
I'll pay you $40 for that hat. That hat is great.
Think about it in the break.
Think about it.
This is indecent proposal. Some kind of weird indecent proposal. Don't give it away now.
This is decent proposal, unless you find it gross to share hats. Then it's indecent.
Can we put the poll up? Do you want your rock stars to have good voices? I think of like Axl Rose had a great voice. I want to listen to Guns N' Roses.
I don't know. Axl Rose had a great voice.
Yes.
I mean, like, define like Adele has a great voice. I don't know.
Well, I know they don't sound like Barbara Streisand. I get that. It's not Adele. It's not Pavarotti.
Not show tunes.
Yeah, this is different. But I want my rock star.
Rock stars cannot have great voices. My favorite band, Stephen Malkmus, the lead singer of Payton, took voice lessons and got worse and worse as he went. Yeah.
What am I paying for? And we have a decent proposal. Perloff just offered Manny $40 for a Sonics hat. Not exactly Robert Redford and a. To me more. 855-212-4227. All right. You guys want to talk about the Vikings. We want to talk about Sam Darnold. And, of course, got a little coaching news. Dallas Cowboys making a change yesterday. We got it all for you next.
I feel great.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
you say that in my ear? Did you say that out? Okay. Manny said, this is Pearl Jam, Black. Yeah, I know. I lived through it. Manny read about it in a history book.
Just learned about it.
The 2 questions. We'll get to the Cowboys in a minute. And Sam Darnold and everything. 2 questions on the show now that we got to stop the show dead in its tracks just for this. 1, Perloff doesn't think rock stars have good voices.
No, you don't want your rock star to be like an opera singer, of course. You want him to sound cool.
Okay, but they could have good voices. Like, I think Eddie Vedder has a good voice.
Well, what defines a good voice then? Yeah, he sounds really cool, but he's like, I mean, if he showed up at like a chorus or something, people are like, yeah, you're not good.
Well, okay, disagree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good rock voice, but it's certainly not like a classic singing voice.
Sure, it's not,
He sounds like he's been smoking and drinking for about a year straight.
A year.
That's why,
3 decades.
It sounds like, he sounds like Troy Aikman last night. I think EJ's original point was Aikman sounded kind of cool, raspy, and Eddie Vedder is as raspy as they get. Sounds like Doc Rivers.
Yeah, the guy who comes up on stage with a bottle of red wine and then just drinks it throughout the show. At least that's what happened when I saw Eddie Vedder.
Classic rock. Yeah, that's what you want.
I guess I consider that voice still good. Anyway, do you want your rock stars to have good voices? And then second, Perloff has made a proposal to Manny. Manny's wearing this really cool Seattle Supersonics throwback hat, and Perloff just said, I'll give you $40 for the hat. And we called it a decent proposal. But now Cap is saying he would never share a hat. EJ also saying you would never share a hat. But I ask you this question. Have you ever borrowed somebody's bathing suit?
No.
What? Are you crazy?
I mean, that's a kid, baby.
No.
Okay, I'm just asking. I wasn't sure if you had a double standard.
I thought you were like, that is yes. Have you ever, you just told me that entire setup did not work in any way. Wait, let me get this right. Let me get this straight. You will not share hats, but you will share bathing suits with another man? No.
I wasn't sure if guys share bathing suits. I have no idea.
They definitely don't.
If you forget your bathing suit and you go over to somebody's house and they're like, I'll give you a bathing suit. It's presumably it's been washed. It's clean.
Nah, you say, I'm good, man. I'll just go in my shorts because presumably you're coming in your shorts as well.
Right, your boxers.
Yeah.
So you'd rather... But you might not be able to go into someone else's pool with your underpants
You're not borrowing
on.
another man's, you're not putting that straight naked on your...
That feels like something maybe you would have done when you were like 12.
Yeah.
Like maybe your parents, maybe your mom's like, I forgot the bathing suit. All right, well,
borrow this.
Yeah, maybe, but not as a man, definitely not.
Also, the way you described it, it wasn't like you arrived at that person's house and you needed a bathing suit. You said... but you guys would share a bathing suit, right? It sounds like you were out of the ocean. Hey, bro, give me those trunks. I want to go swim.
Borrowing bathing suits?
That's the grossest thing I've ever heard.
Are you borrowing bathing suits as a grown woman, Maggie?
Yeah.
I'm not, but I guess I thought it was different for guys.
So, yeah.
If I show up someplace and I'm like, oh, I forgot my bathing suit. I didn't actually forget my bathing suit. I just didn't want to get in the pool. Sometimes women just don't want to get in the pool. I think for guys, you guys always want to get in the pool. There's no reason. You don't have to worry about your hair. You don't have to worry about your makeup. You don't have to worry about other things. You just get in the pool whenever you want.
Yeah.
You don't realize how lucky you are.
Well, listen.
If you went to someone's house and they had a pool and you're like, I forgot my trunks, they'd be like, you can borrow my bathing suit.
It sounds weird when you put it that way. EJ, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you don't like sharing hats?
No, I would never share.
If I gave you a choice, I said, could I wear your hat? You have to wear my hat for the rest of the show, or we can go in the restroom and exchange on underwear. Which one would you prefer?
I'll take the hat.
Wait a minute.
I'll take off my boxer briefs.
I'll take the hat in a heartbeat.
See, you will. Push comes to shove, you'll share hats.
Wait, I didn't say take off your bathing suit and give me your bathing suit. I borrow another bathing suit that's been washed. A clean bathing suit, guys.
Let me put it this way. We're on the 10th floor. Would you rather jump out the window right now or share underwear later in the show?
Sharing underwear is...
You just said sharing bathing suits. When you think about it, they're not that different.
I imagine in my head, the bathing suit's been clean.
The underwear has been clean.
It's something else in the drawer that's clean. Hey, would you like to borrow this?
But what if you needed to borrow...
The hat's never getting washed.
There's no circumstance where I would borrow another man's underwear, even if it was washed.
Perloff, you want to switch socks later?
See that? I guess if there was a reason. No, not really. That's gross, too. That's even worse.
I'm not putting you on wiki feet, Perloff.
No, only my gigantic. There's only space for my gigantic feet and wiki feet. I take up the whole internet. So big there. All right, sorry, guys. Don't share bathing suits. Kill me.
No.
I learned something here. We'll talk about the Cowboys next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Timestamp it. Yesterday, late morning. Tweet goes out over social media. Sources. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has spoken with Colorado head coach Deion Sanders about the team's head coaching vacancy, and discussions are expected to continue regarding the possibility of him becoming the next head coach in Dallas. Coach Prime considered a top candidate, although the Cowboys plan on interviewing other people. Perloff, in some ways, this news, the fact that Jerry has reached out to Deion, completely overshadowed the fact that the Cowboys actually parted ways with Mike McCarthy yesterday. So it's almost like we have to work backwards. The first piece of news was McCarthy's out. Mm-hmm. And then you let the dust settle on that for like 5 minutes, and then here comes Jordan Schultz, top rope with the big announcement that Deion Sanders is a top candidate for the job.
You know, it's funny. It sounds weird now, right? Deion Sanders. There was a period of time, and you guys might not remember. I'm going to take you back in the Wayback Machine. In late October, early November, Deion Sanders was on fire at Colorado. It looked like Colorado was going to the playoff. And Dallas had a really high pick. So we were talking about, whoa, can they, they weren't winning with Cooper Rush. Can they marry Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, and the Cowboys? The Cowboys, unfortunately, started winning a bunch of games with Cooper Rush, and they fell out of the Shedeur sweepstakes. And they fell out of the Travis Hunter sweepstakes. So there was a time when we were actually talking about Deion and the Cowboys because it looked like they might be looking in the quarterback market, which is weird because they have Dak. So it's not that crazy. But now that they aren't going to get either of the kids, like then Deion, it felt like Deion would only coach in the NFL if he could coach Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. He said that on Good Morning America last week. So this is why it's so weird. Why would they go to Deion and they didn't have his kids? Like, that's insane, right? It just sounds, that's a crazy thing. Like Deion Sanders not coaching Shedeur and being the Dallas Cowboys coach, that feels way too much.
Well, unless it's the long game. Jerry has been very loyal to coaches. And if you think that, all right, well, let's play this out. Say Shedeur, they're gonna funnel him somewhere, right? I don't think it's going to be to Cleveland. I don't think that they're going to allow him to go to Cleveland. Maybe he goes number 1 overall to Nashville. And maybe Deion's thinking, listen, let me get in the NFL. Let me get my feet wet here as an NFL coach, and either we'll find a way at some point to bring Shedeur to Dallas, or if I'm doing great with Dak Prescott, maybe at some point down the road we team up. Like, I was never sure when Deion said I want to coach my sons if he meant immediately or just at some point down the road. Like, I watched Scott Turner and Norv Turner in the booth together, like for the Raiders. At some point, do you want to coach with your son? At some point, do you want to coach your son and team up? Did it have to be the first job I take is only going to be for Shedeur?
That's how I took it.
That's how I took it too. But now I think this is a new wrinkle, and it's clear that Deion's leaving himself open for this. Now, there's another read on this, which is Cowboys are going to go full Mannings on this, or Sanders are going to go full Mannings on this, which is not only is it Shedeur's not going to Nashville and he's not going to Cleveland, he is going to Dallas, and we're just going to have to figure out how to get him there.
Right, but the Mannings had to go from 4 to 1, and unfortunately the Cowboys have to jump up too far from 12 to 1 or 2. It can be done.
Unless it's multiple stops. Like you trade up from 12 to 5 and then from 5 to, we've seen this before. Your Eagles did it. The San Francisco 49ers did it. I believe Miami did it at one point too. You have to do a double jump.
So, well, let me ask you though, going back.
And by the way, I actually didn't hate that. I'm not trying to pull out the receipts, but I did float it out. We actually asked Shireen Williams about it, and I was a little embarrassed because she dismissed it so quickly, and I have so much respect for her. But I said, you could still have Shedeur on a very cheap contract. Dak Prescott, let's say he plays well next year coming off this injury, he boosts up his trade value, and then you have Dak as a trade chip, and Shedeur sitting behind him.
Yeah,
Dak is a very expensive bridge quarterback, was never totally out of the realm for me.
Well, Dak is an impossible trade chip. I think he might be the last player in the league.
Well, I looked at
him and Deshaun.
If it was a post-June 1 designation after next year, it's only a dead cap hit of like $27 million. That's what I saw for the Cowboys. To trade Dak Prescott post-June 1.
Why would a team... that sounds thin to me. Are you sure about that?
I'm just saying, I went and looked at it because I made that point, and Dak is a very expensive bridge.
But I'm saying no team in the NFL, all 32 teams you'd have to attach 2 first-round picks to take Dak Prescott's contract.
Or just money, because look what happened with Russell Wilson and with Denver still paying the bulk of his contract, and they didn't barely trade him for anything.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's ideal. I'm just saying.
They traded a ton for Russell Wilson. What do you mean?
No, the Steelers, rather. So Denver is eating all that money, but the Steelers didn't really have to do anything. So if they didn't have to trade anything.
Yeah, I just don't think that seems very, very unlikely. Because Dak, the tendon came off his hamstring.
I'm just saying, we saw it. Russell Wilson's stock was extremely low, too. Steelers took a flyer on him, and now look what it did. Denver has Bo Nix. They're moving forward with Nix, and you have Russ out of the building. I could see a world if this Deion thing is serious, and it's the report that Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders spoke yesterday about the head coaching opening, and if Shedeur has to be part of this as well, then Dak Prescott plays next year. Shedeur is sitting there as the backup, and you're grooming Shedeur for the future.
Yeah, you'd kill to get Shedeur in Dallas, but it's not. You can't get from 12 to 2 this year. Because how are you going to – I mean, the Niners have all these picks. I just can't see that happening. Besides, I do think that the top 3 teams, Titans, Browns, Giants, all need quarterbacks. And you have the Raiders at 6. Like, there's no way. Like, you could not force those teams' hands.
Okay, so maybe it's just Deion's looking at it. I mean, maybe the whole Shedeur thing is for down the line.
No, I think he stays at Colorado because of this.
Because of what?
Because he's not going to go to Dallas without his kid. I think he's more likely to stay at Colorado. I think ultimately he stays at Colorado. I don't think he takes this job. Do you?
You know, I think there's 2 questions here. I think the first one is, could this work? So let's pause on that.
Wow, that's a big question.
Right. So let's talk about, could this work? You know, I think Shedeur being gone into the NFL now, and Deion still being at Colorado, there could be a little of looking around like, what am I doing here?
Sure.
You know, I'm here now. I'm just coaching at Colorado, and this is what I'm going to do. I don't know how that feels very temporary to me.
I don't know. I feel like I disagree with that. I think it's kind of attractive, but I hear you. I mean, he's got the top 3 transfer quarterback, got the number 1 high school recruit. Like it seems like he's doing something there to me.
Okay, and they had 4 wins this year, and I understand that. No, they had 6 wins this year.
No. They had at least 8.
I know. Wait, sorry, hold on. They had 4 wins the first year.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's obviously been better. He's getting better.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But here's the thing. You're saying that he's got the top recruit and the top guy from the transfer portal and all that. That's so temporary.
Yeah, they were 9-4 this year.
9-4, thank you.
Yeah.
The thing is you have to keep recruiting those guys. This is what burns a lot of these coaches out now.
But Deion has a special connection to the sort of high school, college community because that's what he was getting, because his kids were going through it.
Sure.
He got his hands deep into that. Like, he knows these guys really well.
That's fine. It doesn't mean you don't have to re-recruit them every year.
Right,
Nothing has changed about the NIL and staying on top of them and losing guys in the transfer portal and poaching other guys. Like, you can know high school is as good as anybody. That's still your reality.
Well, I just think that Deion has such a recruiting edge because he's Deion. So I think he's like I think that's an attractive formula to him. Like, you can't recruit in the NFL. Right. You're stuck by the salary cap and free agency and the draft. So I think he's like, well, I can use my charisma to get better players at Colorado. I can't do that at Dallas. So that might be if you're doing a pro con list, to me, like, he is always going to get the top quarterback. He's Deion Sanders. He gets guys paid. I mean, not only are they going to have big NIL collective money, like, you get national commercials if you're Deion Sanders quarterback. I think it's very attractive.
Sure. And, but again, it feels to me a little bit temporary without Shedeur there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a loss without Travis Hunter and Shedeur. You're absolutely right. But, I mean, it seems like they're getting good. Like, there are a lot of good players there.
Okay, so let's ask the question,
great left tackle. They have a great wide receiver.
Okay, well, we see what it is in college.
Yeah.
Do we think it could work with the Dallas Cowboys?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Jerry Jones. I just don't think the Cowboys. I don't think any coach is going to work there. To quote my friend Troy Aikman, he's like, it's not a good setup right now.
Troy Aikman did say yesterday he did not think that this was a coveted job, I think is the way that he said it, right? Doesn't think this is a coveted job.
Also, too, they're in a tough spot. They have a lot of money spent on certain guys who are getting older. They have a lot of injury problems, like deep injury problems. I don't think Deion could win there immediately, and I think he knows that, too.
Okay, so there's a thought that maybe this is all for show. I think that Deion could do well here. I do, because I think one thing that Deion has really impressed me, I've been impressed by him in terms of his college coaching, is his ability to bring in really high-level assistants. He's got good guys coaching on his staff, and I think there's a Deion appeal. And so Deion being the culture setter, the leader of men, all that stuff you want and teams say they want from a head coach, right? And then your ability to bring in really top-level assistants to implement your plan. This is a winning formula. And I think Deion has that formula. I was skeptical. Pat Shurmur, Warren Sapp. I'm like, what's this going to be? I think he actually has he coaches his coaches well, I think. And so why wouldn't that translate and come over from college to the pros?
Great point. It's just because the Cowboys just do not have the roster or the structure where it's going to work. Maybe if everything falls right, they're 10-7 next year with Deion. Just the odds of him turning that team into a Super Bowl team seem really thin to me.
Okay, 855-212-4227. Can Deion Sanders work as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Perloff, you just don't think anyone's going to work. It's kind of hard to have this conversation with you because it's like, if you don't think anybody and Jerry will never, ever win, then they should have just stayed with McCarthy.
I think that you did convince me a little bit. Like, Deion, somebody's going to come in there and rip the Band-Aid and reload. They need a classic rebuild. Like, whatever they're doing is not working. They've just been stuck in limbo forever, for 30 years.
Oh, I get it.
So they need to, Jerry's got to let go of control of the personnel, which he will not probably do. Steven probably has to let go to a certain extent. They need to bring in like a Bill Parcells type again, which they did at the late 90s because they needed a new stadium and they needed to win some games. They need to just let total control go. And I don't think Deion's really necessarily the man for that. Like, they need a full team builder. Remember the Miracle of the Meadowlands in 1978? About
how could I forget
65 years before.
Yeah, Manny was born.
It got so bad that the Giants just said, you know what? Everything we're doing, we have to everybody's fired.
Yep.
We're bringing a whole new team, and they brought in George Young and Parcells. Like, the Cowboys need to rip down to the bolts and start over again. And they can't do that because there's so much pressure on them to win every year. And I just don't think Deion did do that at Colorado. He did it successfully, but I just think the assignment's too hard. Honestly, if Deion might even be better off at the Raiders. If he really wants to coach in the NFL, join Shador or maybe Travis in Vegas. Like, I just think the Cowboys, where that team is right now and where Deion is now, everything you said, I totally agree with your points. And not only that, Deion's great at sharing credit. Like, he'll bring in a coordinators. He would be a good guy for this, but I don't think it will work. And there'll be so much attention on this team and so much pressure that eventually, like, he would not be my first choice.
Listen, the circus aspect, the idea that this is all for show, there's a high probability that this thing just spins totally off the rails. We're in a social media age right now. Michael Parsons got a podcast, and Jerry's got his radio hits on Tuesdays and Fridays, and now Deion's here talking to the media every day. And there's a possibility that this is just so combustible and every little thing gets taken out of context or whatever, and it just can never, ever work. There's also a world where what this team is really lacking is, you said it, like the alpha of all alphas. Someone who can somehow out-alpha Jerry, where I'm the top of the food chain and everything comes from me and it's not Jerry. And it's telling Michael Parsons, don't say this on your pod or something like that, right? Or however you want to get everyone to fall in line. And honestly, Deion wouldn't say don't do your podcast. He'll say, I'll be a guest on your podcast. Like, he's very media friendly. But maybe there's a world where Deion's star actually shines brighter than Jerry's. And while that could be hard for Jerry to compete with, maybe he realizes, hey, one of the most famous football players of all time is going to be the face of the team. And that's it.
But
and that would in some ways be a major departure from how Jerry has run things in the past, where he's got to be the center of attention. Maybe he has a different type of respect for Deion, where he's not going to be in the locker room after losses talking for 40 minutes with the media. Maybe he's not going to, and maybe he's just going to let Deion coach.
Yeah, see, I don't see that. That's not what I see is really the problem with the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
They have, I think, 3 or 4 big problems. One, they can't find a receiving complement to CeeDee Lamb. That's number one. Number two, Dak can't run anymore. That's a huge problem, a massive, massive problem. Number 3, they have serious. They lost Overshawn and Trayvon Diggs for next year.
Yeah, so you're just talking about personnel.
The personnel. That's the problem. It's not because Micah Parsons on a podcast. But why is their personnel broken? Because of Jerry Jones. And I just don't think Deion's going to come in and all of a sudden fix all their personnel problems. It's been the GM problem. It's not been the coaching problem.
855-212-4227. And even this whole thing feels backwards a little bit because I don't understand. Now Deion Sanders is a candidate to be the head coach of the Cowboys. Why did it take a week for the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy to part ways? You've had the guy he's been coaching your team for 5 years. 5 years. You've been through everything with him. This is Dak's second injury with Mike McCarthy. You've had good defenses. You've had bad defenses. You've won playoff games. You've lost playoff games. You've done everything you can possibly go all the ups and downs you can go through with a head coach. You've gone through with Mike McCarthy. That you needed this week to unpack everything to decide whether or not you want him to be your head coach moving forward. That to me is so alarming. And it's yet another instance of Jerry waiting till the absolute last second to make a move on something. And it's so reactive. There's nothing proactive about it. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Can I introduce you to Jerry Jones and Dallas Cowboys?
They keep making this mistake.
You said alarming. The word is predictable.
How? Making these guys coach until the last day of their contract is just insane. He did it with Jason Garrett. He did it now with McCarthy. McCarthy's exclusivity literally ran out at midnight last night, and they made the decision yesterday. That's just crazy to me. And then the second part is the inaction, right? Sitting on Dak and then ultimately giving him the biggest contract ever for a quarterback. Sitting on CeeDee Lamb and then ultimately giving him the second highest contract for a wide receiver. Dragging your feet on this decision with McCarthy. All of it just reeks of just someone who doesn't want to operate on anyone else's timeline, but meanwhile, the world moves on. And things happen that impact your franchise.
Those are bad, but saying you're going to go all in and then not signing anybody, what is the number one major mistake? And you seem disappointed that I went in personnel decisions. What's the biggest mistake they've had in 30 years since Jimmy Johnson left the building? Not signing Derrick Henry this offseason.
Letting Jimmy Johnson leave the building, but yeah.
They didn't sign Derrick Henry this offseason. He said, I'm going all in. Then he went all out. All out. He said, I'm not participating in any of this offseason crap. Jerry's just completely out of it as a GM right now. That's a big problem. That's why Deion, I think, is nervous about this team. I don't think he thinks he has the guys.
855-212-4227. All right, so we got 2 big pieces of news yesterday. Number 1, Mike McCarthy's out. Number 2, Deion Sanders is a top candidate. That's how Jordan Schultz worded it. Top candidate.
What's the deal with Deion and the Raiders?
I haven't heard.
Because I would think Deion would want that job first, right?
I know at least in Dallas, you have a quarterback, you got an edge rusher, and you have a great receiver.
Well, he lives in Dallas, so that's a huge. He loves Jerry. He was a Cowboy, but I do think the pull. I think he thinks he can make the leap to get Shador in Vegas. That to me, I feel like that's still overwhelmingly his number one priority. I want to coach my kids. He's making it very clear.
Yes.
So if he has a better chance, if he can get up with the Raiders, and by the way, Titans, if Deion calls him and say, "Hey, can you fire that Callahan guy and bring me in?" I don't know. I just think that there might be better fits. I think Deion doesn't really work in Dallas to me at all. He's going to watch Shador. He's going to be traveling to watch his son play on Sundays. He's if Dallas plays on Monday night, he's going to be in the crowd watching Shador.
Isn't he supposed to be watching tape of Baylor?
He's like LeBron. LeBron has become more sports dad than actually sports player over the last 5 years. It is. I think it's just an odd situation, and I think he wasn't lying to Robin Roberts. I think he really does want to coach his kids.
I think the LeBron thing is part of this. It's Archie Manning with Eli and wanting him to go to New York over San Diego. And I do think LeBron getting Bronny drafted, I think Deion's like, I'm just as famous, powerful as all those guys. Like, why wouldn't I try to steer my son to a place where I can coach him? And maybe the Cowboys are on that list. I don't know. 855-212-4227. All right, can this work? Deion and the Cowboys. I also have the coach the Cowboys should hire. I'm not saying that Deion can't work. I actually will. I'll leave space for that. I don't think it's such a terrible idea. But I have the coach that the Cowboys should hire if Deion decides to say no or this doesn't work.
Ooh, spicy.
The number one person who should be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It's not even close, by the way. Once you really think about it, the perfect candidate is out there. And I've got it. 855-212-4227.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Oh, welcome back. The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Defensive Player of the Week, chosen by E.J. Stewart. I know who you're going with, and I think you're making the wrong choice.
I mean, is it easy? Is it Jared Verse from last night at a nice 57-yard scoop and score? Kind of put the nail in the coffin for the Vikings season.
He's fast. Oh, I thought you were going to go Derek Stingley, 2 picks for the Texans. But that is because we were talking about him on yesterday's show. I think it should be the other cornerback, Kamari Lassiter, who is the tone setter for that Texans defense. It is a star. I love both. The Texans defense is my jam right now. But I think that's who you should choose. But I think he chooses Stingley because 2 interceptions was pretty great, too.
Yeah.
I had Jared Verse to be great. Jared Verse was on fire last night.
I don't know. I'm looking at EJ. I'm trying to read his mind. We haven't done a lot of women's hoops in a while.
Certainly wasn't a Nick after last night against the Pistons.
Can't do that.
Fly kite, buddy.
Is there anything left over from, we still are in the college football season. It feels like a long time ago.
It's got to be either Jack Sawyer with the big play for Ohio, or maybe Caleb Downs, who actually had the big tackle on second down with the sweep toss. But then it was Sawyer who returned the fumble for a touchdown.
Downs came back to earth on. I thought he did not have a great game. But anyway, who do you have, EJ?
I feel like my answer was on Twitter and nobody clearly. Well, Maggie clearly was paying attention because.
Here's Ewers, snap, hit by Sawyer, ball's loose. Sawyer comes up with it, running down the right sideline, 40 to the 50-yard line. Sawyer to the 30, Jack Sawyer to the 20, to the 10, to the end zone. Touchdown! Jack Sawyer!
Jack Sawyer is the Navy Federal Defensive Player of the Week, and it was because of that game-changing, really game-ending play on his former college roommate.
Yep.
Did anyone know that? They said it about 100 times in the broadcast. Former college roommate takes the ball out of Ken Ewers' hands, then on one fell swoop picks the ball up and takes it about 95 yards for a touchdown that sealed Ohio State's win in the Cotton Bowl, sending them to the national championship game. And I love Jack Sawyer because of how Gus Johnson says his name.
Captain Jack!
Captain Jack! Jack Sawyer is the Defensive Player of the Week.
It's a great choice.
Captain Jack!
I mean, nothing.
Only you would not be impressed by what was one of the greatest defensive plays we've seen in college football history.
Strip sacking Quinn Ewers, man, he could do that. I mean, come on. Texas was crumbling in that drive.
How many offensive linemen for Texas are actually going to the NFL? A lot more than you would think by watching that game.
You could see the fear. Quinn Ewers dropped back, and I know he got get out of here. They were panicking on that last drive.
What are you impressed by?
Nothing.
I was impressed by Will Anderson and Derek Stingley, like the Texans' defense. And last night, by the way, the Rams. I was impressed by the Rams' defense, too. They looked like they were just on fire the whole night.
The Chargers and the Vikings O-lines and that disaster we saw, you were impressed by that?
Are you crazy? Yes, I was totally impressed. You know, you're not impressed by Will Anderson?
No, I am impressed. I'm saying that the fact that you're not impressed by a guy winning a freaking semifinal game with a game on the line on fourth down with a strip sack, pick up the ball, run 95 yards, don't get caught. He was flying down the field.
It's like the play of his career.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, well, Jared Verse had a great game. Like, yeah, he did, but like also that was also really good too. Is my point. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's a great play. But by the way, you just sold out the offensive line of the Vikings and the Chargers. I mean,
well, look, my guy O'Neal on that right side, he was having major issues with, and he got hurt in the game, which was unfortunate. He was having major issues with Verse. Like, he was dead on arrival to start the game. I don't know why. He's a really good right tackle. And then the left tackle who came in, after Darisaw got hurt, also struggled.
Yeah, it was rough last night.
I think the Texans defense is building to be all time. I think they're going to be. That's a Super Bowl defense.
And maybe the Chiefs tackle's a little vulnerable here. I don't know. 855-212-4227. We'll see. We got a lot of time to preview that game. Meanwhile, we're talking about the big news yesterday on the coaching front, which is that Mike McCarthy is out as Dallas Cowboys head coach. Never got a contract extension. Never even talked contract extension. He and Jerry just couldn't see eye to eye philosophically on where the team was headed. Sure. Now Deion Sanders has emerged as the top candidate, one of the top candidates, according to our pal Jordan Schultz. I have the perfect candidate for the Cowboys. Not that Deion couldn't work. I'm leaving myself open to that, but I have the perfect candidate. We'll tell you after Adrian in Maryland gives his thoughts on this Cowboys now coaching search. Hey, Adrian, what's up?
Hey, longtime Cowboys fan. I'm on both sides of this Deion thing. I want them to hire him just so they look like clowns in a circus more that they are, and I want Deion to fail because then Jerry will figure out that this job is not for him. He needs to sell the team and do whatever he has to do to get out of there. I told one of my friends the only thing why the NFL hasn't pushed him out is because he makes them so much money.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, the media, you guys have fallen into this trap. We're on. There's 4 games coming up this week in the wild card. There was just 6 games wild card, and guess what we're talking about? We're talking about the Cowboys team that's not in running for the Super Bowl, it's just crazy to me.
Adrian, hold on one second. I know the people don't like it when it seems like the media has an obsession with the Dallas Cowboys, and I totally understand. But I got to be honest with you. The reason why is because you are calling from Maryland, and you identified yourself as a lifelong Cowboy fan. You guys are everywhere. You're everywhere. We have to serve you.
But you guys help us out. You guys help us out with this a little bit because, like I said, I hate listening to and seeing things about Dallas on the news or on sports channels that has nothing to do. Well, it has a lot to do with football, but what's going on in the sports world? I'm a sports fan. I love the Cowboys, but I don't want to see them during wild card when they're not. They don't have a chance to get to the Super Bowl.
Adrian, you're going to push out Jerry. Why would you push out Jerry Jones? There's 10 worse owners off the top of my head.
Perloff, really? Why would I push him out?
I mean, at least a guy who wins double-digit games. Like, why aren't you going to push out Tepper or Mark Davis or all those idiots?
Especially when Perloff, understand, when you said that they need to just be a bad team, they were 7-10 this year, and we talk like they were the worst team in the league.
Right. But there's a lot of worse owners.
They did more with less than some of the teams. They had the New York Jets was fully healthy, better roster, and they won 4 or 5 games. If Jerry would just step aside and let other people do, this sounds like the Johnny Manziel thing. Remember, Stephen Jones stepped in and he said, "We can't draft this guy." This has got to be what Stephen Jones has to come in and say. We cannot hire Deion as a coach.
Adrian, it sounds like you probably thought that Mike McCarthy was doing a good job, and I think that McCarthy did not overachieve with this roster. Micah Parsons was hurt early. Dak Prescott got hurt late. They said they were going to go all in. They never did. They gave him no upgrades, essentially. And we were asking a lot from young guys, especially on the offensive line and on the defense. And what happened? They were overmatched in a lot of cases. Couldn't stop the run.
Yeah, but they were still 7-10. If you're going to, Maggie, I know you have some issues with owners. Like, if you're going to start pushing out owners, I'm not sure where Jerry comes on the list. I know exactly what Adrian's saying, But there's clearly some really bad owners around the NFL right now.
Oh my gosh. Do you realize, though, the threshold of what you need to do to get kicked out of the NFL?
Well, it's just like
Dan
I think
Snyder, multiple lawsuits. David Tepper was asking women if he could shave their legs. Or not David Tepper, Jerry Richardson was asking women if he could shave their legs. Like, this is
I'm just saying,
disgusting.
No, but Adrian was saying, forget all that. He was saying you should kick him out because he's not good at running a football team anymore. Like, if that was the
criteria,
there'd be so many other people to kick out before Jerry.
No doubt.
It's funny. I think the NFC is on the rise because there's so many bad owners in the AFC. I look at the Brown. Look at the draft this year. The Browns, the Titans, the Jets. Like, there's messes all over this ownership circle. And why would you ever let go of the team anyway?
I mean, look at Miami. They got docked a draft pick because their owner was tampering, although I guess some people probably like the fact that he was trying to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton on board.
That may actually turn out the smartest thing he ever tried to do.
All right. I do have the perfect candidate for the Cowboys. It's going to have to wait for a second because Andrew Bogusch is sitting here patiently. We have headlines to get to.
And guys, you've mentioned his name more than once already this segment. A reminder that I knew of Jared Verse before he was Jared Verse.
Darnold against the rush. Blitz coming. He's hit. Ball down. Scooped up. Byron Young. Dean's got it. Jared Verse has it. Down the right sideline with blockers. 10-5. A leap in the end zone. The defensive rookie of the year with a scoop and score.
JB Long on Rams radio versus a 57-yard TD. The highlight of the Rams' first half destruction of Sam Darnold and the Vikings. LA led 24-3 halfway through this wild card game in Arizona. They won 27-9, sacking Darnold, an NFL postseason record time 9 times. The former Albany Great Dane, though, couldn't do his TD celebration that he had planned.
I told him 1,000 times, I said, if I ever get a touchdown, I'm going to tweak out. But I was too tired. I was too far away. I was expecting it to be on the goal line, so I was going to dunk at the field goal post, but I was too tired. I just had to jump in.
So he wanted to dunk, ran out of gas, so he dove and flipped across the goal line instead.
It always scares the bejesus out of me when guys do that.
Oh,
I know. The forward flip.
Yeah.
I know.
Not even for the fumbling purposes. I'm like, are you going to hurt your back or tweak your neck or something?
They're quite athletic. It does seem like that never ends up in injury. I always afraid the fumble at the goal line is the worst thing that can happen in the world to me. I think the Eagles, by the way, watched Jared Verse play last night. If Nick Sirianni was watching, they are not going to drop back and pass more than 3 times the entire game. They're just like, Saquon, you do this. We're not having that guy scream at us off the edge. Like, right? That pass rush was kind of terrifying.
Well, but think about how they did it. They were trying to hand off to Aaron Jones, and he was running into a wall. So now you're sitting at 3rd and 8. And what do you think was going to happen? Darnold got sacked all the way back to New York.
Well, not only that, they were down 27-9 with 9 minutes left in the game, and they were handing it to Aaron Jones, which was bizarre. I think Kevin O'Connell kind of lost his mind last night. But I do think the Rams are a very good pass rush team. That's why my Eagles, I've been scouting all night. I was up till 3 a.m. coming up with a game plan. I think I got it solved. Hand the ball to Saquon Barkley.
You fax that into headquarters?
I have all these extra charts. I'm like, okay. That 26, give him the ball. Let him do this thing. That's their best chance.
According to Next Gen Stats, Jared Verse reached 19.88 miles per hour. Daniel Jones speed.
He was flying. He looked like Reggie Bush. And he did the somersault afterwards. Like, I thought we were at USC.
Here's Darnold on being harassed all night by that pass rush.
I'm 100% responsible for the football and what happens to it. And for me, it's up to me to be able to feel that and either step up, move, go run for a first down, or just simply throw it away. I felt like, there were a lot of sacks today that I was responsible for.
The 9 sacks cost Minnesota 82 yards plus those points. Darnold also threw a pick in his second straight dud. The Rams now go home to LA for a while before playing in Philadelphia on Sunday. The Lakers and Clippers were back home last night. The Clips got a 109-98 win over the Heat, while the Lakers lost to the Spurs 126-102. J.J. Redick's team has now dropped 3 straight, but he's not sure how hard he should be on his guys at the moment.
I think I always try to give grace to myself, the staff, our players. Doesn't mean you don't critique, and it doesn't mean you don't tell the truth. And we've had, for 3 games now, a real slippage defensively.
Don't know if you guys saw this, but Wemby and Chris Paul signed their jerseys last night, giving the JJ's kids who were sitting courtside at the game.
Is that problematic? Or is you're saying in a good way?
In a good way.
Like they just lost their house.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. Yeah.
JJ Redick lost his house in the horrible LA fires.
Yeah, I saw some people killing the Lakers effort last night. I'm like, come on, guys. What are we doing? I mean, we know. I know the Clippers did win the other night, but, like, we know what's going on here.
Oh, it distracted?
Yeah. I mean, the Rams played great again. Shout out to them. But first game back at the crib, I was not surprised they got smoked.
They also haven't played since in a week, basically.
Was that?
They also haven't played in a week,
right, they
too.
haven't played in a week. And I think that's what JJ was referring to, some of that, giving the guys grace. Like,
well, the thing about the Rams, not to turn it back to that, which is the practice schedule. You know, what's the air quality like right now, which was a situation they were talking about before, and just guys are just distracted. How could you not be?
Well, I also do, by the way, the Rams face it. Like, there was a good point earlier in the show. Like, this is Monday night they have to go to Philly cross country on Sunday with all this going on, and who knows how much they're dealing with at home. This is one where the Rams probably shouldn't have botched the first part of the season because you don't want to go on the road to Philly. I think the Rams are a better team. But how does this team get organized in 5 days with everything that's going on?
the Monday night game is not good.
It's not really fair.
Yeah, I know the Rams I think they won a Super Bowl the year they played the Monday night game. They beat the Cardinals, right? And then they went on. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why they still have
Monday night game in Arizona.
Nobody cares about the schedule anymore. Ever since COVID, it's like, you play on a Wednesday, you're going to play on a Tuesday, you're going to play whatever. This is obviously, this was planned. But, I don't think the NFL cares. Like, just get up and play again.
Yeah. With the extra thing of the disaster, too. I think that just adds, like, short week, and also you're dealing with extra stuff. That being said, the Rams have this sort of young, oblivious feel to them. It didn't feel like it affected them last night. I think maybe if you're like 23, you're Jared Verse, you can compartmentalize. I don't know. Maybe, or you rally, galvanizes them. Of course, I'm still scouting for the Eagles, trying to figure out the mental state of my opponent.
They appreciate your efforts.
Yes,
you can tell.
You don't like my go right Saquon, go left Saquon. That's the best strategy.
You're basically Big Dom.
Howie Rose has you on speed dial.
Big Dom is the basically running the show there. That's the greatest compliment you guys ever gave me. You think I'm as good as Big Dom?
Thanks for that, Maggie.
Wow.
You look like him, too.
It's uncanny.
Body
I
doubles.
wish I looked like Big Dom. I'm like Skinny Dom.
Like Skinny Pearl. Last thing from me, we're told the Dodgers, Padres, and Blue Jays are the finalists for young Japanese righty Roki Sasaki. He can sign with somebody as soon as tomorrow morning. Guys, back to you now.
Bogusch, thanks so much. Okay, coming up, more on Deion Sanders' interest. Maybe there's a mutual interest between Deion and Jerry Jones for Deion to be the next head coach of the Cowboys.
All in.
That may work, but I have the actual best candidate for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll reveal that next. It's MVP.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Dallas Cowboys, Deion Sanders. Could it happen? Welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Mike McCarthy out of the way now. Team decided to part ways. Now Deion Sanders, according to our pal Jordan Schultz, top candidate to take over.
Wait, is it the top candidate or a top candidate?
A top candidate.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because everybody's top candidates coming into this whole cycle were Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. I'm not sure that Dallas attracts those guys. Like Vrabel already took the job with the Patriots, but it's interesting. Like, I think it's not just a one-way street. Like, these guys also have to coach in Dallas.
Sure. Now, there are a lot of attractive things about Dallas. There really are. And
like what?
Well, you do have one of the best pass rushers in the league. You have a great receiver. You have a quarterback. We'll see how Dak Prescott is coming off of surgery. But as we were saying after this wild card round, I mean, Dak Prescott's suddenly not looking so bad considering some of the bad quarterback play we've seen. So, I think that Deion is very intriguing. I think it could work. I think it could be great. However, if you're asking me who should be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, who the actual best candidate is for this job, Perloff, there's one name and one name only.
I can't wait. Who?
It's Aaron Glenn. Now think about it. Aaron Glenn, Texas-born, played for the Cowboys, amongst other teams. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions right now, a defense that's gotten better and better every single year. Aaron Glenn was one of the architects of one of the worst home losses that the Dallas Cowboys have suffered In fact, it was the worst home loss that the Dallas Cowboys suffered since 1988. And that was when the Lions went into Jerry World and thumped the Cowboys 47-9. Aiden Hutchinson got hurt in that game. Lions didn't skip a beat. Dak Prescott didn't even finish that game. Cooper Rush finished the game. And it wasn't because Dak was injured. That happened later. He was out. Aaron Glenn took Dak Prescott out of the game. Such a blowout, Dak took a seat. Jerry Jones in the building to watch his team get their butts kicked worse than they have since he bought the team. That will leave an impression on somebody. And as we know about Jerry, he's scouting in the building. He's there. He's watching front row. We talked about the college football playoff, the Cotton Bowl. He was going to be there. Is he scouting Sark? Is he going to be scouting, these college coaches, guys who come in? He's always paying attention. Well, how about the guy who came in and made your team look like fools? That was Aaron Glenn. You're not getting Campbell. I don't know about Ben Johnson, but I think Aaron Glenn is actually the better candidate here. And you get the defensive side with Aaron Glenn, and then you have a guy who's been in the building watching the Detroit offense do their thing for years. So you don't think that the defensive coordinator for a team is paying attention to what the offense of his team is doing? That's his whole job, is to study offenses and find out how to stop them. So now I've got somebody who I can take elements of the Detroit offense if I want, which is explosive, and if I run into Detroit, which I hope I'm going to do in the playoffs, I maybe have a little inside scoop. I got a little inside knowledge. And I know the Packers very well, and I know the Bears well, and I know the Vikings well, and I know the 49ers well. Aaron Glenn checks every single box for the Cowboys, and on top of it, there's not going to be the who's more famous, who's going to outshine Jerry. Aaron Glenn doesn't care about that. That's not Aaron Glenn. He's not going to compete for the spotlight with Micah Parsons. He's just going to coach the team. Aaron Glenn, Cowboy fans, you're welcome. He's the perfect candidate. EJ, you don't look convinced.
I mean, I want him for the Jets, or at least it'd be an option for the Jets, so I'm a little worried about that. I just feel like if you want someone from the Lions, why not Ben Johnson? Like that's
By the way, also
that's
too,
the problem I have.
I'm sorry, I don't want Aaron Glenn for the Jets or the Cowboys because why would you hire a defensive guy for either of those teams? Like, did
you see the Saints run all over the Dallas Cowboys? Hiring the defensive side is not a terrible idea.
Unless it's like a real innovator like Belichick. Like, I feel like Aaron Glenn is interviewing for every job. It's just like another hire.
Oh, I don't think so.
You don't think
the Detroit Lions defense was a laughingstock. And look at what he was able to do this season. And I mean, again, against the Cowboys. And I know how much this means to Jerry. You handed Jerry his worst home loss since 1988. Dak Prescott left the game. You
just said, so were they going to hire Dennis Allen? I mean, the Saints smoked him too. But I just think like Aaron Glenn is he's interviewing for every job or been offered pretty much every job.
Patriots, yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just feels like a name. Is it really? Don't you need something radical here? That feels like everything you just said makes too much sense. If that makes any sense.
But he's not outside the box enough for you?
I think he'd be a good hire. I just feel like I don't know. I just think that I think Ben Johnson. Okay. That's the guy I want, and that's who I think would make more sense.
Here's the thing about Ben Johnson. I'm going to say it over and over again. You don't know what Ben Johnson is going to be like without Dan Campbell. I know what Aaron Glenn's going to be like without Dan Campbell. You don't know what Ben Johnson's going to be. Is he going to go for fourth downs as much as Dan Campbell? Is he going to be able to wear the criticism like Dan Campbell? Let's not forget, Lions lose to the 49ers after that 3-score lead. Some jabronis showed up to Dan Campbell's home with his daughter there. Mm-hmm. This is not for the faint. Look at Brandon Staley. He was Mr. Go for it on fourth down, started getting criticized to the high heavens, and then all of a sudden he stopped going for it on fourth down, or sometimes would. Dan Campbell does not get enough, I think, credit for sticking to his guns. You don't know if Ben Johnson's going to do that. He's never been in the top slot.
So why do you know if Aaron Glenn's going to do it?
Well, but I think Aaron Glenn, he you know what you're getting with him because I don't think Dan Campbell is coming in and deciding Aaron Glenn's biggest play calls in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
I think Dan Campbell is deciding whether you're going for it on 4th down. You have no idea if Ben Johnson's going to be Dan Campbell light. Is he going to be conservative? You have no clue.
You need the next Sean McVay. You definitely don't need. I mean, it's been forever since a defensive coordinator has really done anything. I mean, this is an offensive league. Also, Detroit's defense was meh this year. You think it was good? I know they had injuries, but they were definitely bottom half of the league.
I don't know. Buffalo Bills have a head coach who's a defensive guy. And
they're the exception.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Shotgun snap, Darnold on 2nd down and 10. Looking left all the way, has to pull it down. He's thrown down at the 10. The Los Angeles Rams extend their postseason record as Juan Johnson has the 9th of the night.
That was Rams Radio. Long night for Sam Darnold and the Vikings. The long goodbye was a blowout. Rams move on to face Perloff's Philadelphia Eagles. We have plenty of time to unpack what should be a good game there, but this kind of felt like it was all about Sam Darnold, sort of a referendum on Darnold, who had become, Pearl, one of the hot QB names, someone who we were penciling in. How much is he going to get? Is he going to get $150 million? Is he going to get $200 million?
Oh, I never heard that. Was there that wasn't a thing? $200 million. The question was he going to get a job? Was he going to get $200 million?
Well, what is the going rate right now for quarterbacks? And it doesn't mean you're getting every penny of that $200 million, but you know how this goes. It would probably be an eye-popping number if he was going to get to unrestricted free agency.
Right.
Kirk Cousins consistently shocked us with the sticker price. He made tons and tons of money after leaving Washington. I think Sam Darnold was lining up for a pretty significant payday, considering the draft is not that deep this year with QBs, and you have a lot of QB-needy teams. But to be honest, I think Sam Darnold's bridge quarterback status has been reactivated after the last 2 weeks. These were the 2 biggest games of his career outside of his college career, and he fell flat in both of them. And I don't think now it'd be possible to sell to an owner, if you're a GM, hey, here's Sam Darnold. Let's give him a bag of money to be our quarterback for the next 3 years, when you know you cannot win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold.
I don't see it that way. I think around week 14 or 15, Schefter started reporting that Sam Darnold expects a Baker Mayfield deal, which is about $33 million a year plus inflation. So since the cap goes up, that's about 37. I think a team can bring in Sam Darnold and they're not selling out their future. So I think a lot of teams don't think like you're thinking. I think they think, give me competent quarterback play. And by the way, Sam Darnold, even in Carolina, because I bet against him a bunch of times, like he would have decent games. There were moments. He was not as terrible as you think. You have to put a filter on all the Jets numbers and the Panthers numbers. He had a season with 19 touchdowns and 13 picks in Jets. That's equivalent to 45 touchdowns and 2 picks on a normal team.
Yes.
I honestly think you have to understand, like, those were terrible spots. Yes, is it going to be as easy as playing indoors with Justin Jefferson at receiver and Kevin O'Connell at coach? No way. But is he a competent mid-level quarterback? Yes. And I do think there's a market for competent mid-level quarterbacks.
Maybe, but if I'm running a team and I'm running it well, then that's the last thing I want. Because if I'm the New York Giants, if I am the Las Vegas Raiders, if I'm someone like that who needs a quarterback, Sam Darnold just clogs the lane. So
you're saying you got to keep it open for your draft pick?
Absolutely. Because Sam Darnold you've seen it. The last 2 games, he cost you games.
Well, I don't know if he caught. I mean, I don't know if anybody was winning that for the Vikings last night.
And I'll go back to against Detroit. I think that
Detroit's the best team in the league.
I'm just saying, well, at some point, if you want to win, if the goal is to win, you're going to go up against good teams.
Yes.
And the last 2 weeks, Sam Darnold went up against good teams, and we saw what happens. When Sam Darnold and the Vikings are playing the Giants, the Jets, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Bears twice, Arizona, Atlanta, Seattle. Yes, Sam Darnold can win you those games. And then what happens when you get to the real elite competition? Good night. Sam Darnold got dragged into deep water and drowned. And you know what? That's not what I want to pay for. That's not what I'm looking for my next franchise guy if I'm running a team. I'm not looking for Sam Darnold to come in and win just enough games for me to take me out of a quarterback sweepstakes. If you haven't solved your quarterback situation on your team, you got to keep going for the draft, not go for Sam Darnold. He doesn't get you anywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Vikings are that great a team. I think they're good, not great. I think the Lions are way better. And Darnold, kept you in the first game. He played really well. I just think that Sam Darnold, you could do a lot worse. I'm not saying listen, I'm so excited that I'm going to win a championship with this guy. But if you're the Giants, for example, I mean, maybe with Dable that won't be that great, but I think you could get a lot out of this quarterback. He's so different than the journeyman, like the 35. He's 27 years old.
Yeah, but he's still a journeyman.
But it's so he's 6'4" and 27 years old. He, as Kyle Shanahan said, people don't understand this guy at all. His talent is way above what people think.
Right. And they had him as a backup.
But I think the age is what's different about him as a journeyman. I think there's still upside. I mean, Shanahan was a joker. He called him Steve Young. He's like, Sam Darnold is so talented.
Then why didn't he start over Purdy?
Well, because Purdy was really good. Purdy was Steve Young too. He had an amazing season 2 years ago.
Okay.
I think, by the way, Shanahan falls in and out of love really quickly. I think he partly would be interested in Darnold again, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to re-sign Purdy. But I don't think Shanahan was joking. He's like, you guys do not understand how bad the situation Sam Darnold came from. And obviously this year he had, he's going to get MVP votes. He had a great season.
Right. And I think Kevin O'Connell did get a lot out of him. So do I think the next coach is going to be able to get more or less of the same out of Sam Darnold? And then ultimately, what happens when you win 14 games? The expectations get raised, right? Maybe you didn't think that the Vikings were going to win the Super Bowl, but they were in a winner-take-all game for the number one seed in the NFC, right? So now all of a sudden people do start to believe there is some hope. So when you have a game like last night and you come out and stink, well, now it hurts double because you could say for some guys it's like a pleasant surprise. Geno Smith was a pleasant surprise. When he took over for the Seahawks when Russell Wilson left, it was like, wow, oh my gosh, we had Geno back here.
What's the difference between those two situations?
Because this was a 14-win team. This was a 14-win team. So you can't just undo all that and say, hey, we were just happy to be here. I don't think that's what the fan base is thinking. I don't think everyone's just happy for the journey. Like last night on the broadcast, Troy Aikman said 14 wins is meaningless now. He goes, I hate to say that because, the regular season does matter, but it kind of doesn't also. You put yourself into that elite sort of playoff status, people started believing, and then you were just terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is this Vikings, it's all true, but the Vikings, obviously, nothing was about this year. Nobody came and said, man, we are all in for this year. The second McCarthy got hurt, the plan was to have J.J. McCarthy a quarterback, and he was going to learn on the job, and they were probably going to be 8-9, 7-10. They have a good team, not a great team. So there's nothing about the plan went wrong this year. The plan was never to be in the Super Bowl. That was not even in their thoughts. The plan is we got a rookie quarterback. We're going to build around him, bring in talent over the next 3 years, get the chemistry going. Nobody, I think maybe it feels bad in Minnesota right now, but in 3 weeks, I think it's back to normal. It's okay, Kevin O'Connell can sure call some plays. The defense has some moments. I do think there's some problems there that need to be addressed. But generally, things are headed up for Minnesota for sure.
I think 3 weeks ago, the thought process was, wow, the Vikings probably can't afford to let Sam Darnold leave the building, and they may have to trade J.J. McCarthy. Can you just acknowledge how different the conversation is now?
I think certain media members were the trade McCarthy thing. I bet you in that building in Minnesota, the GM did not even really think about that. Because I just think about it. You draft J.J. McCarthy number 10, you probably are in love with that dude.
Okay, but if Sam Darnold had gotten them to the NFC Championship game, then
you franchise tag him. You said all along, franchise tag him.
I did say that.
$41 million.
That's out the window now too.
Probably, but it's such a small commitment that it's going to be somewhat attractive.
855-212-4227. Talk about Sam Darnold's future. George is in L.A. George has been a Rams diehard fan your whole life, George, and ever since we started this morning show, you've been so loyal in calling us after the Rams win. You got to be feeling awesome today.
Yeah, it was a very, very good win. I live in the Woodland Hills area where the Rams practice, and there's a fire going on that day, and it's, man, this team is amazing to be so resilient with such catastrophic situations in the city, and the smoke is bad here. But anyway, congratulations to the team, and I was very impressed. And how about that 9 sacks last night from those kids, man? First two, they got so many rookies and second year guys. It's pretty amazing defense.
George,
amazing.
Can I ask you a question about the air quality? So you said the smoke is pretty bad, and you are near the Rams facility. Just what is it like to breathe that in? Does it make it hard to breathe? How is it walking around?
You should probably be wearing a mask outside right now. It's going to get bad again. I hate to say it, but I don't want to be political, but we got to get some new people in charge, man. You can't just not have water. Is that insane?
George, we're just all heartbroken for you guys. We really are. Thank you so much for the call, and maybe the Rams lifted some spirits last night. Listen, that political part's going to all play out, but you just can't. It's unimaginable the images that keep coming out of LA, and not knowing when the wind's going to pick back up, and you have such little time to try to get ahead of it and evacuate, and the hundreds of thousands of people who have been evacuated. It's crazy.
Oh, the stories are heartbreaking and terrible and scary. And I imagine with a family like I have, I don't know what I would do in that situation. I certainly, I feel terrible. By the way, he also had a good point about the GM Les Snead. I mean, can we talk about the heater he is on draft picks? Like, he is just drafting all-pro defensive player after all-pro defensive player. Him and Brad Holmes in Detroit, those guys are something's in the GM water for these guys. He is building a champion right there for LA. Turns out
F them picks was a bad philosophy. He's really good at drafting.
Well, yeah, but he's amazing he's really amazing at the later rounds. That's where he's on fire. I'm just looking around his draft picks, looking at hit, getting Puka Nacua in the 5th round. I mean, that guy, I think Les Snead might become a Hall of Famer. I mean, he is really, because I know Matthew Stafford's old, but the rest of his team is babies. They could really do something here.
Jeff is in Tucson. Good morning, Jeff.
Maggie, Perloff, how you guys doing?
How's it going, dude?
Wasn't much of a game to watch last night, but hey, you got to ease up on Darnold. He's not going to get paid, but one thing I can say about him is this is the first 2 games of his career that he's faced this kind of adversity. And let's look at the Rams' defense last night. I don't care who they went up against. The quarterback would have been miserable. Good luck for the Eagles having that come right at them. The coach.
Jeff, here's the thing, though. I don't think the Rams' defense looked awesome last night. They're going up against one of the best offensive lines in football in the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts can move around a lot better than Sam Darnold. I don't think this game's going to look anything like the divisional round's not going to look anything like last night.
Come on now, you know that Jalen, he's afraid to run right now a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, a lot bit.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. You got to run. Also, too, the Rams shut off all the running lanes last night. They
did.
No, the Eagles' offense isn't going to do crap against the Rams, but that doesn't mean they'll lose the game.
I don't know. Stafford knows he's big time quarterback.
Yeah, but it's in the link at night, and it's going to be cold, and that's a long flight, and people they got a lot going on at home. All the conditions favor the Eagles in that sense.
Wait a minute. They just Stafford and the gang and 6 dogs and a couple cats all jumped on a plane, got their whole world turned upside down.
Yeah.
So going to the Eagles, that's going to be part of normal, give them some normalcy. Doing a regular game.
Yeah, but the link, it's the X factor.
3:00 kickoff. That's night. That's
Oh,
nighttime.
they're the 3:00 game.
Afternoon.
It's an afternoon game. That's
well,
right.
let's see. The game where they almost murdered Brock Purdy, that was an afternoon game,
That's
and
true.
It felt like it. I mean, those officials are terrified of that crowd.
Come on, you can't Brock Purdy against Stafford. Come on.
I mean,
there's no comparison there.
I listen. I saw Stafford come east against the Giants last year, and just that team is not the same on the East Coast. They have never. And the Jets game, that was a disaster too. I don't know what Rams team you're talking about. You think they could play outside the same way they play inside?
All right.
I mean, did you see the Jets game? You telling me Matt Stafford and that offense is scary on the East Coast? I don't see that at all.
Jeff, thank you for the phone call.
Browns games to watch. All the games to have Sunday ticket.
There you go. Well, Jeff, I appreciate the call. It's going to be a little bit different task for the Rams. It's just
it's just a very different set of circumstances.
And by the way, I know Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run right now because of the concussions and whatever. But if you're not going to run now, I'm not telling him he should put his brain in harm's way, but you walk on the field, you're putting your brain in harm's way. If you're not going to sell out for the run now and move around in the pocket, then, or, use your legs or whatever, then when are you doing it for? It's a win or go home. You're in the divisional round.
He didn't run last year. I mean, he stopped running, did run in the playoffs, and it killed the Eagles.
I know, but first of all, he didn't have a knee injury last year, was a little bit different.
And now he's got a concussion.
Well, but knee injury is a little bit different. Head injury, it's like you have to get over the fear that you're going to get hit in the head again. Your knee, you're actually limited in how much you can move. And the Eagles were on this ridiculous skid last year.
Yeah, in part because their offense couldn't get any first downs because Jalen got paid and decided, I'm not putting my body on the line.
Oh, I thought you blamed the defense last year.
Well, the defense was terrible, but when Jalen does not run, the offense bogs down. It was a combination, so they had no time of possession. Defense was out there too long, and they stunk. But by the way, can we just talk for half a second about how callous of a human being you are? You're like, that's a knee. I can understand not running when you have a knee injury, but just because you have a grade 3 concussion, put it out there on the line. What are you? What kind of inhuman person are you, Maggie?
Perloff, what are you? You're going to call me out on that? 99.9% of players in the NFL would rather be overcoming a concussion than a knee injury. You know that's true. We've talked to too many of them.
You're like, well, I can understand taking it easy if you have a knee injury, but just because your brain rattled around inside your skull and you've been sick for 4 weeks, you should really sell out and run. Because if not now, then when? What kind of human being are you? You have a son.
Yes.
You have a son. Are you going to send them out there? It's like, mommy, I'm seeing stars. Get out there and hit somebody.
And I would love to know, if Jalen Hurts doesn't run in this game and the Eagles lose, who's going to be the guy who comes in Monday morning calling him Flail and Hurts?
No,
it's not me. It's not going to be me with the derogatory nicknames. Definitely not.
No, I do. I understand. Yeah, I'm kind of half kidding, but I do think it's not just, it's the confidence, right? He didn't look comfortable running the ball. He slid way too early last week. He just.
That's good. He's protecting himself.
Yeah, I just think that they really need him because this is going to be a battle, right? We saw what happened last night. You cannot just drop back and hope that you have time for A.J. Brown to run deep. You got to come up with every yard against that Rams defense. I don't even know how we got on this, except for the fact that you're just kind of mean.
I mean?
Yeah, you're a Bills fan. I'm sure you'd be like, Josh Allen could be dizzy on the sideline. You're like, get in there. Get me a first down. Run.
He's already in there. I didn't put them in there. They put themselves in there. Hey, one other thing off of last night, talking about Matthew Stafford. So obviously handled the blitz really well. He's a veteran dude. There's not much that you can do he's seen it all, right? How about the play where he's getting sacked? He's not even looking towards Puka Nacua, yet somehow gets the ball out. It's taken as a scoop and score the other way, and then it's ruled an incomplete pass. I thought that was not the right call. I really thought Matthew Stafford knew where he was. He couldn't see. And everyone's like, wow, Stafford, what a genius. This guy knew exactly where.
Well, let me ask you a question.
I thought he messed that up. I thought that was a fumble.
But it wasn't a fumble. I mean, he didn't fumble the ball.
He didn't fumble, but he.
So that's the end of the story.
He let go of it or something. I don't know.
I mean, it was technically the right call.
But did it feel like a forward pass? That did not look like a pass.
Yeah, but Patrick Mahomes does that kind of thing all the time. It was a weak effort, and it was clearly intentional grounding, even if Nacua was somewhere near there. But I got a huge text argument with a friend over this. That's a fumble. I'm like, technically, no, it's not a fumble.
It was
because you don't do that on a fumble.
Space in between. It was kind of like it's like he dropped it forward. I don't know how to put that.
I don't know what it was, but I really don't want it to be allowed anymore.
Yes.
That was the softest play I feel like I saw all weekend.
And it would have changed maybe the tenor of the game.
Yeah. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. You shouldn't be allowed to, when you're getting sacked, just say, I'm just going to drop the ball at this guy's feet, and that's a pass. That's
Well, it's supposed to be intentional grounding. It's supposed to be intentional grounding, and it's the same yardage.
Right, but
the fumble aspect was different.
Nacua was in the way. I mean, I don't think it should be intentional grounding. I think that's a fumble. I think you should have to make some real attempt to throw the ball.
Let me ask you a question. What if he's just thrown it normally straight down? Would you call that a fumble?
It would have felt at least a little more intentional. No, as an intentional grounding.
Right, exactly.
That's if you're just trying to dirt it
Right, but that's basically he was dirtying it. Yeah, I know it was cheap.
It didn't look to me like he was dirtying it. It looked like he was just letting it go. Sometimes like they say when guys get hit like in the elbow and then their hand goes numb, it felt a little more like something flukish.
He was clearly shuttle passing it. I mean, like he was definitely through it. By the way, there were 2 personal foul calls. If they should not have been called. There was a late hit early that changed the game. It kept the Vikings in it. Basically, Rams, there was a pile, and a Rams guy ran in and blocked a guy. And then you can't pick up a dude and throw him into your punter and get a 15-yard personal foul penalty. That call was insane. That made me mad, too.
What did they call it? It wasn't roughing the punter, was it?
Yeah, they called it personal foul, roughing the punter.
Personal foul, roughing the punter. Wasn't running into the
He didn't run. Yeah. He did, because the punter was obviously got demolished, but that's because he didn't just get blocked. He got held and thrown into the punter. That was a ridiculous call. And also there was this unnecessary roughness that was bad. The officials were kind of all over the place last night. I thought they missed a bad PI on Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Anyway, to me, what are you going to do? That was a pass. You couldn't really call that a fumble because it wasn't a fumble. I mean, New York would have probably called it and said you can't call that a fumble.
Yeah, it wasn't a pass. To me, it didn't feel like a pass and it didn't feel like a fumble. I don't know what it felt like. It just felt like a mistake. And I felt like Matthew Stafford got bailed out a little bit.
But did he do it on purpose?
See, I don't know if he did.
I do. He definitely did that on purpose. You guys don't think he tried to fling it?
But he couldn't see where he was He couldn't see where he was flinging it. That's the thing. His helmet was completely down. He had no vision.
Right.
So you're telling me that's a smart move. And if Matthew Stafford's so smart, he's flinging it to nothing, to nowhere?
Yes. That's what he obviously did. I mean, he flung it straight down into the ground. There's no risk there. I mean, it's a ridiculous play that you're allowed to do that. I agree with you.
I don't like it.
No, nothing about it was good. It was definitely, but I don't know, like the rules, like you can't just change the rules on the fly.
Man, 855-212-4227. All right, last night's game. You got the Vikings going home. The future of Sam Darnold now a lot murkier, perhaps, than it was 3 weeks ago after 2 bad losses to the Lions and now to the Rams. And also, we got some coaching news for you. Bit of a surprise yesterday when we find out that the Dallas Cowboys are now in the running for a new head coach. Who's at the top of the list? We'll tell you next. It's M&P.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining.
Believe Bilal's got something to say. Infinity's mice. He's feeling the dismay. No NBA on NBC. What a shame. Just JJ Redick's wine ain't the same. Peter Bellotti is getting upset. Maggie, Perloff, can you hear this plea? Bring back the NBA on NBC. Set his spirit free. He misses Mar. Co-stars and the crew, those were the days. Pete cries out, boo, boo. Bring it back, oh can't you see? Bring back the NBA on NBC. Let it be. Pete's mad, he's feeling sad. Bring it back, oh make it right. Biglotti's got something to say.
Maggie's got some giant feet, they're the talk of the town. When she walks the sidewalk cracks, she's bringing buildings down. She tried to buy some shoes, but they said no way. Now she's wearing boat sails just to get through the day. Maggie's giant feet, they're a real big deal. Stepping on puddles, creating lakes for real. Maggie's giant feet, they make a mighty thud. But Maggie just laughs, hey, it's all in good fun. She went to a dance, cleared out the floor. Her feet made the music, folks yelled for more. At the beach she's a hit, making giant sand castles. Her footprint's so big, they're like dinosaur battles. She went to a dance, cleared out the floor. Her feet made the music, folks yelled for more. At the beach she's a hit, making giant sand castles. Her footprint's so big, they're like dinosaur battles. Maggie's giant feet, they're a real big deal. Stepping on puddles, creating lakes for real. Maggie's giant feet, they make a mighty thud. But Maggie just laughs, hey, it's all in good fun. She went to a dance, cleared out the floor. So here's to Maggie and her feet so grand. She's the funniest girl in all the land. With her giant feet, she's never beat. Maggie's big feet make life so sweet. Oh.
Glorious flight. He's on the chat, tuning in. Where it's at. Infinity Sports.
The easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Just
to the beat, feeling so right. The takes are loud. His speakers blast. He's a Twitch viewer. Having a blast. Perloff is spinning the crowd.
mean to Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold was mean to me last night. I had to watch that game. That was a shame. Why am I not getting?
We're gonna get into it. Like, here's the one thing: Sam Darnold gets all the credit when they win, gets hoisted on these teammates' shoulders, but that was a full team failure last night. In fact, I didn't love the body language of Justin Jefferson. And dude, watch Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp murder people on blocks. Do you see Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison throwing their bodies around? I don't think so. I didn't love Kevin O'Connell's play calling. I didn't love the fact that the defense got torched the first two drives. Like the Rams set the tone, like, we're going to run all over you. And they did. I mean, honestly, the Rams are a better team. Top to bottom.
But I don't know if people thought that not going into this game because the Vikings were favored.
I was surprised because...
And favored on the road means very favored. They were both on the road.
Yeah, I just think that I thought the spread was a little weird because Minnesota wasn't in Minnesota. I mean, if they had gotten the number one seed and gotten teams in their home, maybe. But it does seem like a bad matchup. Like the Rams are a bad matchup. The Eagles desperately, I think, really would want to see the Vikings or the Commanders. Hurts is really good against the blitz. I think he could have handled Brian Flores. So it is a matchup game. And the same with your Bills. You know that drill.
Yeah, I mean, keeping it on the Vikings for a second, I'm being hard on Sam Darnold because he played terribly. Is he the only person who was responsible for that loss? No, and I think it's going to hurt Brian Flores. I think there's two things hurting Brian Flores. One, I think Tua Tagovailoa's criticism of how he handled them is bad because a team that hires you as a head coach may need you to tutor and to develop a young quarterback, and I don't know if there's any evidence that he can do that. And two, I think that more seasoned quarterbacks pick apart Brian Flores' defense. It's one thing to, confuse Caleb Williams and young quarterbacks and bad coaching staffs. But when you get to the elite of the elite, what happened last night? Matthew Stafford he went to town.
I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick's criticism of Brian Flores was much more impactful than Tua, because Tua was, when he came after Flores, was in his young 20s. Like, I think people would say, Tua doesn't really know as much. Ryan Fitzpatrick has played for every coach in the NFL.
Literally every team.
And he said Brian Flores became a complete egomaniac in Miami. Now, Flores has tried to counter and said that I've become more of a collaborator, but I think Fitzpatrick kind of cut the legs out. That being said, it doesn't seem like teams are shying away from Flores.
We'll see if he actually gets hired. I mean, so I think that Sam is going to wear this, but he's definitely not the only one. I didn't see a lot of criticism of Justin Jefferson's body language. I don't know.
I just thought I thought Jefferson looked down last night on the sideline.
Well, they're getting their butts kicked.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Jefferson to me is a great player, but it feels like you can take him out a little bit.
So poll questions up at Maggie and Pearl on X. Will Sam Darnold get a starting job next season? 65% of you are saying yes. So my bridge quarterback status for Sam Darnold is on just a trajectory along the lines of a Jacoby Brissett or something like that for the rest of his career. I guess you guys do not agree with me on that.
It's like a high-end Jacoby Brissett.
Okay. And then, do you want your rock stars to have great singing voices? Yes is winning overwhelmingly, 79% to 21%.
I guess it depends how you define great singing voices, like an opera singer.
Well, it's almost like Picasso painting, right? You can go through the early works and it's all looks like real. It's like realism, and then he gets into the crazy stuff.
Right, but
I think Eddie Vedder could sing the national anthem, and it would sound very pretty. It's not going to sound like Pavarotti, but he can do it like a classic song. I think he could sing.
Well, he's got a really raspy voice, though. It's his thing.
But it will still sound good, right? Like he can hit the right notes. It can be on pitch. It can technically be. He's a good singer. I think he can do that.
Okay.
And he's just one example.
Yeah, but he also you can't understand the words when Eddie Vedder sings. That's so. Isn't that a good part of singing? I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's more like he's a rock singer. It's like, he kind of growls.
Yeah, but like Yo Ledbetter is an extreme. The other 99% of songs, you know what he's saying. Young Ledbetter is gibberish. Well, I still don't know what the words are. And I've heard and sang that song a bazillion times.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I know it's in Jeremy. I know it's in Alive. I know it's in Better Man.
Okay, yeah, maybe I'm thinking Ledbetter. Better Man is you can understand, but like as in Jeremy, I don't know. He just kind of growls. He's not like a classic singer. I'm thinking a singer like Freddie Mercury's a great singer. I don't think like Eddie Vedder's jam is that. But then again, like he's not Bob Dylan. But Bob Dylan's the greatest ever, and his voice was terrible.
Right. We were asking this because Troy Aikman's voice was hurting a little bit last night, but EJ said he liked it better. Troy's got a really good voice, cuts through the broadcast, but EJ likes slightly sick Troy Aikman better than full strength.
Who's the greatest announcer of all time? John Facenda. And how did he get to do that? The NFL voice of God. NFL
Whiskey and cigars.
Whiskey and cigars. I mean, there was nothing classic about that voice, and it's the best voice in the history of sports broadcasting.
I feel great.
By the way,
was that Brady?
Tony Romo.
That's called.
Tony Romo was criticized a lot for Sunday's game. Which game? I don't even remember which game he had now. But
the Bills.
Yeah,
the Bills game. He had a lot of. It was a less prepared Tony Romo, I thought, and also remember the line.
Saying a lot, Chris.
Remember we always used to make fun of Martin Luther King. That guy deserved a day. That was the energy. He was starting a thought and just trailing off into nothing again and again and again. He would start something and be like, "Well, the city of Buffalo." Yes. And he was just like starting sentences and had nowhere to go with them all game long. Did anyone else notice that?
To learn more, visit realizethedream.org.
What a day. Martin Luther King Jr. deserves to have a day named after him.
Yeah.
Guys, that's coming this weekend. Don't forget.
Max.
Here we go again.
What's that?
MLK Day is next Monday, so it's that Sunday Ravens-Bills game. Yeah. All bets are off.
Just
Low-key.
Please, Tony,
this is gonna be fire.
lay out, as they say in the business. Layout means don't talk.
Also, there was it wasn't a competitive game, so he really had to vamp a little bit, and that's when he really got in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
He doesn't need to vamp about MLK. There's literally nothing Tony Romo can say about Martin Luther King Jr.
No, I'm saying the Broncos-Bills game. There was nothing on the field to talk about. The game was god awful by every metric, and so he started trying add some color. It just didn't help.
What a day!
What a day! Honestly, they started doing the Red Cross stuff about raising money for people in LA, and I was like, Tony, don't. Just don't. Just let Jim handle it. Jim can do this. I also didn't love Jim Nantz called his 500th game, right? Really big deal. And
friends.
You could tell he had people he wanted to thank, and he had a thing. He had thought about it. He had something he wanted to say, and Romo jumped all over him.
I can already
Every time.
feel the aura.
Multiple times.
Just let Jim, he's thought about this for weeks. You haven't thought about it at all. Just let Jim say what he needs to say about the 500th win or 500th game, and just thank the people. And Tony was like, Jim.
Yeah. 1988, huh?
Tony.
I'm assuming Jim Nantz is already in the Broadcaster Hall of Fame. If he's not, would Tony
what's the Broadcaster Hall of Fame?
I'm assuming there's a Sports Broadcaster Hall of Fame. There's a Radio Hall of Fame.
The NFL has its own media award.
Right.
You said it it's Cooperstown.
Sure.
There's that one in North Carolina.
There is a Sports Broadcaster Hall of Fame, and it's actually in New York City, apparently.
Well, there's the NSM. What's it called? It has a...
This one doesn't have any weird names. It's just called the Sports Broadcaster Hall of Fame. Class of 2024 includes Huey Brown, Brian Gumbel, Andrea Creamer, Chris Mortensen, R.I.P. So there's some Jim Delaney. There's some heavy hitters in this class. TBD if Jim Nantz is here.
But what I was trying to get at here is that Romo would jump on the dais like the Kool-Aid Man breaking through a wall. Jim just can't get through a sentence without Tony Romo. Was what I was going to say.
What a day.
Every year, by the way, Dan Patrick nominates, he made a lot of press for trying to get John Facenda in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it actually worked.
Yeah.
He got him in. There's an announcer wing. And this year, last year he did Brent Musburger. Totally agree. That guy should definitely be in the Hall of Fame, right?
Facts. Jim Nantz, by the way, is in the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. He is class of 2018.
But would you put him in the Football Hall of Fame? Because Nantz also had the Final Four, Masters. I'm not sure. I would put Brent Musburger in the NFL Hall of Fame before I would put Nantz.
I mean, Nantz, how many Super Bowls has he called now?
Right.
10? 10 Super Bowls, probably?
When I think of Jim Nantz, ironically, I don't really think
NFL?
I don't think NFL.
You think what, Masters?
I think Masters and then college basketball.
Yeah, that's his duel. That's his big week.
Yeah, I feel like that's spring. April is Jim Nantz time. March and April, got March Madness to start, then the Final Four in April, and then he's doing the Masters. He's been the number one NFL guy for a long time, but I don't know. It just almost feels like that's just of course he's in that role. He's the number one CBS guy, but it doesn't feel like that's part of his identity in a weird way.
Oh, man, I totally disagree with you guys. But can we put up as a poll, what's the first thing you think of when you think of Jim Nantz's career? Is it golf? Is it college basketball or NFL?
It doesn't really matter because he's in everything.
His signature line is "Hello, friends." Did that start at the Masters? I assume.
Yeah,
I thought it did. Yeah.
Hello, friends.
So he's in the other Hall of Fame that you were thinking of, the NSMA
in
Hall
Salisbury,
of Fame.
North Carolina.
He's in that. He also is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Nantz.
Yes.
Nantz is already in the Pro Football Hall.
Already.
Oh, okay. Then we don't need to make a movement for him.
Yep. He has the media awards from those two halls of Fame.
Ah, good.
So he's in.
I think of NFL.
That's your first thought on Nantz? Don't you think of it as the whole package?
Yeah, I guess the one thing about March Madness is, yes, he's been doing the Final Four, and now Ian Eagle does it, and Ian does a fantastic job. But there's so many voices on college basketball, and the big things about college basketball are the upsets. And you have no idea if Jim Nantz is calling the upsets, right? There's 6 different broadcasters who each have an equal shot at calling these great upsets. Andrew Catalan, I think, actually has called some bigger upsets than probably Nantz.
Harlan's called some huge ones.
Gus Johnson
called some huge ones.
Exactly. See, so I guess college basketball might not be the number one thing I would think of.
But it's the Final Four, though. That's where I know what you're saying, but like the Final Four to me, it's like, all right, when like I know is not what it's used to be. I know we've argued about that a bunch on the show, but like when it was North Carolina versus Illinois, like those grand matchups, like it was Jim Nantz on the call.
I mean, he came up.
Carmelo Anthony beating Kansas, like those, like that's what I remember growing up.
I mean, I think his first claim to fame was college basketball, even before Masters, right? I mean, when did he really hit it? I don't know. I think of him in CBS. Yes, he was doing football for a long time, but I think that was when he just became huge. I don't know. But by the way, he's an incredible golfer, right? That's like golf is a big part of who Jim Nantz is.
You played golf with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a college golfer. Like he's talked about that a lot. Like if he could be anything, he'd be a professional golfer.
Yeah,
so
but
I think
that's
like
most quarterbacks too.
Yeah, I think
and Steph Curry.
The thing that is probably most precious to him is the Masters. I would think. There is that. I've never been to the Masters, but everyone who goes down there just talks about it like it's So and
commercial. That's a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah, and Nantz.
The birds chirping.
The reason I played with him is he recreated the 9th hole in his backyard. And he took us through his house, and a lot of it is golf related stuff.
More golf related memorabilia than
definitely. I mean, he lives
at Pebble Beach.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that.
That's not a secret.
Yeah, he lives at Pebble Beach. Yeah. Like golf is a huge part of his life.
When you walk into Jim Nantz's house, can you tell you're in Jim Nantz's house right away?
No. He doesn't have like Emmy sitting around. He's not one of those guys at all.
Wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I would have pegged him as one of those guys.
You would or would not?
I would have.
Like Emmy on the mantle?
Well, he's living in like a really fancy area. Like I think that would be considered kind of declassé.
I know, but there's a guy that gives his tie to who he deemed the Final Four most outstanding player. So I think he has a picture of the level of burnt toast he wants in his wallet. He's a weird dude. I would not be surprised if there was like just pictures of him and Tiger Woods, him and Jack Nicklaus, like
a shrine to his career. Maybe in his office.
What does that mean?
It's funny. I don't think of Jim Nantz as being weird, but that toast thing is a little. It's maybe for someone who travels a lot.
God, Jim Nantz strikes me as the least weird person of all time.
Yeah,
he's unique.
True.
I know about the burnt toast, but he's just like...
And the tie thing is a little presumptuous, no? You think Chris Webber won a tie?
But have you ever, like, he never really has awkward conversations. Like, he comes up to everybody, he's like, hello,
hello, friends.
Yeah, hello, friends. He's very easy to talk to. Like, that's why we love him as a broadcaster. He makes Romo palatable, for God's sake.
That's debatable.
As much as Romo tries. Interesting. All right, Bogusch, I'm sorry. You got to hang out for 1 second. Apparently,
the Vikings lost. I'm done. See you guys later.
Okay, wasn't sure if that was sponsored. We have someone on the line who has the origin story of Hello Friends. We'll get to that in a moment. And, of course, a lot of football. Don't move.
Hello, friends.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
He's on the chat to me. Andrew Bogusch, lost in the fog of golf. Bogusch can't see his way. People out his voice in his ears every day. Tom Brady's glory, it's all too much. Andrew Bogusch needs a break. Bogusch has had enough of Pete. Freedom from Bilotti, that's what Bogusch needs. needles, wakes up at dawn. Coffee brewing, screen turned on. He's got a favorite show to see, the Maggie and Perloff Symphony. Oh, pine needles are turning tight to infinity. Sports radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. From highlights to the breaking news, every take you can't refuse. In the chat, he's always there with comments, questions, wisdom to share. Oh, pine needles, you're tuned in tight to infinity. Sports radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. When the games get tough and the stakes are high, pine needles knows where to rely on the voices that break it down. Maggie and Perloff never let him down. He's got a playlist all saved up, from epic wins to the close-up. Loyal viewer through and through. Pine needles, this song's for you. Oh, pine needles are tuned in tight to infinity. Sports radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words, you find your life. So here's to the fan, always engaged with every comment, every page. Pine needles, you're the heart and soul of the Maggie and Thomas. Pine needles, wakes up at dawn. Coffee brewing, screen turned on. He's
Glass gleaming. Who brought stripes and bright
You're
stars?
way off.
To
Forget
the
it.
perilous fight. I'm off.
You're gone already.
Glass gleaming. Who brought stripes and bright stars?
You're way off.
to
Forget
the
it.
Get it with Snoop to your double chill on the beat. Paris got a problem, Mickey Cully ain't discreet. Olympics coming fast, but the water's not neat. Gotta clean it up, make the competition sweet. Snoop's in the house and he's laying it down. In Paris where the river's supposed to wear the crown, but there's trouble in the water, yeah, it's going around. While Peter Buddy's on the sideline, not making a sound. Now Peter Bellotti ain't fazed by the fuss. While the city's in a hurry, he's missing the bus. Olympic fever high and everyone's a rush. Peter's laid back in the calm, no crush. Athletes train hard, dreams big, they trust. While Peter's in his world, the silence robust. Paris may hustle, sparkle and bust, but Peter Bellotti's mind is clear from Olympic dust. As the world tunes in for the gold, the glory, Peter's got other tales, another story. Not about the races or the podium's top. He's cool in the shadows where he doesn't fly. Back to Snoop with a message so clear, trying to fix the waters before the Olympics year.
Soon, guys, soon. Winter will be over. The azaleas will be blooming. Jim Nantz will be back on the Call the Masters. But first,
hello, friends.
We've got football to get to. How did our conversation get on Jim Nantz anyway? Oh, I know. Started talking about Tony Romo paying tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah. 2 words you don't want in the same sentence. Richard is in Indianapolis. Richard, you claim to know the origin of Hello Friends.
Hi, yes, I claim to. And that is, he says, hello, friends, at the beginning of each broadcast in order to remember his father. And if you look at his eyes are very different when he says those words. He's thinking of his father.
Was that something his father used to say?
I do not know that.
Okay.
But it's a remembrance of his father.
It's a tribute. Love it. Richard, thank you for calling in. We'll take the research from here.
Hello, friends.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah, his dad was suffering from Alzheimer's, and that was a way, that was like an homage to his greeting to his father while he was battling it towards the end of his life.
Man.
Jim Nantz Sr.
That's nice.
Who's better than Nantz? You guys don't think of him first as an NFL broadcaster. And
I think of him as a whole package. Like, it's not like he's not an NFL broadcaster. I think of all three. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the Masters would probably be because there are other NFL broadcasters. There's nobody else can do the Masters. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. I mean, Vern Lundquist was a big part of that too. But you know, the funny thing about Romo, halfway through this year when Brady was struggling as a broadcaster, finding his voice, Romo was being exalted. I thought this was like the year of his career for Tony Romo.
I know. And then you're right. I think it's the blowout. I think that when it's a blowout, it's hard for him to vamp because he kept going back to the Broncos have a chance here. The Broncos have a chance. Like Romo, they don't. It's over, man. I get it was 10-7 at halftime and the Broncos doinked a field goal, but that game in the third quarter was not close.
Maggie, you know what? Bogusch and I were talking about earlier. My biggest criticism is different than you guys on announcers. I have one thing that drives me crazy.
What's that?
If you're sitting there and you're on a mic, you have to rip the officials when they make a mistake. That should be half your job. And I feel like last night there was clearly like they picked up a Rams player and threw him into the punter and nobody said anything. And then, of course, the officiating analyst comes on and they're going to always be pro for their buddies. I just don't like. And Brady the other day, there was a terrible call. He goes, "Oh, yeah, maybe that was a little too much contact." I'm like, how did they not throw the flag? I just think that these guys got to come out there and rip the officials. Like, isn't that what an announcer should do? You're the voice of the fan.
Well, I do think that's where you give Troy Aikman some credit because he does do that he does that laugh. Like, he tells you without ripping the officials. He'll be like, all right, sure, ha, 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 ha.
Last night, they missed a bunch of them. There were some bad calls last night. And I felt like Aikman and Buck, because Aikman was sick, we're not on top of it. And Brady, Bogusch told me Brady's not really allowed to.
He can't rip the officials?
Yeah, that's as far as I know, that's one of the ownership limitations. He can't critique the officials on the air.
Oh.
I mean, this is not good.
Yeah, told you.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah. Unless I'm wrong, which I often am, but I'm pretty sure that that's one of the things that he's limited in as part owner of the Raiders.
Way to come in with confidence.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong, which happens quite a bit.
But it's not. But even if it's not specifically spelled out, I do think the broadcasters are scared of ripping the NFL.
Yeah, because I think the NFL says don't destroy the product. I think there's enough people who believe that the refs have agendas or that they're playing to the home crowd or all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if quarterback grabs Justin Jefferson's jersey with two hands and then and the officiating announcer says, well, that's mutual contact. I mean, I just feel like you're an officiating expert. Why do you guys get so much stuff wrong? Like, why do the officiating experts, they never seem to have any idea what the replay is going to reveal? I just feel like this is a weird thing. Blandino is good, though. That's the one guy I like.
Yeah. Steratore on the two games on CBS this weekend, those are the only games he was watching, and he still seemed confused as to why they were bringing him on, to talk about the play that just happened. They need to get caught up in the moment. This is the game we're watching, Gene.
Oh, God, help me out, guys. There was a ruling this weekend where only the officiating expert knew what the actual rule was. Everybody was super confused.
I know exactly. I know what you're talking
it was like
about.
where the ball was supposed to be placed.
Yeah.
Oh, it might have been. No, I don't know what it was. It wasn't when that Chargers punter knocked the ball down.
Oh, gosh, yeah. He knocked the ball down after it got blocked.
Yeah, maybe.
and then it got run back the other way for 2 points.
Was it where the ball was supposed to be placed after a personal foul for taunting? Something like that. Anyway.
How about last night the official didn't know what down it was? He said second down, and Joe Buck's like, it's fourth down. And it took a while for them to come around. Fourth down and second down are very, very different.
Yeah, I want my broadcasters to be critical and honest about what they're seeing.
Bogues, headlines, got anything for us?
The Rams won last night, 27-9. They sacked Sam Darnold 9 times, so they play in Philadelphia now on Sunday afternoon. The Clippers won their first game back in L.A., 109-98 over Miami. James Harden had 26 points and 11 assists. And hockey last night, both our Connors scored. McDavid and the Oilers beat the Kings 1-0, but Bedard in Chicago lost to the Flames 5-2. There you go, guys.
Appreciate that. Quickly, Sean is in Oregon. Sean, you want to weigh in on Sam Darnold's bad game from last night?
I do. I think Sam Darnold is a backup quarterback, and I think he's going to go back to being a backup quarterback. I was asking my friends last night, I said, who would you rather have on your team as your backup quarterback? I said, would you rather have Cooper Rush or Sam Darnold? And I got some votes for Cooper Rush last night. I was pretty surprised. And then I heard you guys talking about voices, and I love having a good voice. My dad had a good voice, and just runs in my family. And I think back to great voices in rock and roll. Rock and roll had the greatest voice, and it starts with the king of rock and roll, is Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what Perloff's talking about. He doesn't think that rock and roll singers have good voices.
Yeah, no, I think it's more about character, like Bruce Springsteen. Like, that's not a great voice. It's like gravelly.
What about Jim Morrison? I mean, you go down the line. I mean, what about you just go on down the line, brother?
Well, it starts to, like, you got to, like,
John.
I heard this great take of Mick Jagger ripping interviewer who was complaining about Bob Dylan's voice. He's like, yeah, you don't understand rock singing at all. He's like, it's all about character. It's not about the quality of your voice. And that was Mick, who has a pretty good voice. But yeah, it's like classic voice, like whatever opera voice is, that's not what you want for rock and roll. And by the way, Sean calling himself having a good voice, I appreciate the confidence.
855-212-4227. Well, looky here. Cowboys need a head coach. Talk about it next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Isn't this so Cowboys? It's like there's a playbook, and Jerry just keeps running the same plays over and over again. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. The latest, Pearl, is Jerry Jones kind of dragging his feet on making a decision about Mike McCarthy. We find out yesterday after the show that they're parting ways.
Yeah.
You had 5 years of this guy in your building. But you needed this week to talk about the future of the offense? Like, I don't understand what took so long there. According to the insiders, they didn't even talk actually about a new contract. It was just about unpacking the whole season, which, I mean, again, why? Like, why, after 5 years of Mike McCarthy, the ups and downs of Mike McCarthy, you've seen him with Dak healthy, with Dak hurt, with a good defense, with a bad defense, winning playoff games, losing playoff games, yet you needed this extra 7 days because you're trying to get every last little bit out of McCarthy. You blocked him from interviewing with the Bears, which he can now do. But to me, this whole thing gets started off like on a wrong foot. And then what does Jerry do to save the whole thing or to change the conversation? Oh, well, Deion Sanders. Here's a shiny thing. Here's this, I'm going to distract everybody from the fact that we totally have no idea what we're doing. Or it appears like you have no idea what you're doing, and we're going to save it by giving you this other shiny object. Oh, Deion Sanders may be interested. He's our top candidate.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but like, who cares if they wait on those? There's only been one coach hired, so why can't? I don't totally understand, like, what, they're too late to get to Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson's not going to be available again probably till the Super Bowl.
No, so, he literally, they can't talk to him now until after the Lions season is over.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's hiring Ben Johnson right now. So he's going to be there for the Cowboys if they want him.
Maybe.
Or actually, not if they want him, if he wants them. But I'm not sure, like, what are the real world implications of this? And also, I kind of think Jerry probably might want somebody. He might not have wanted to get into this whole coaching carousel thing. He might like that some of these guys get hired so he doesn't have the pressure to hire them. Maybe he doesn't want to have to look at a Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn because he wants his guy.
Okay, so right now we got the short list of at least what some people and the insiders are saying, which is Deion Sanders, and Deion confirmed that they did have a conversation yesterday. So either that's an outright circus, or maybe somehow Deion can take some of the magic coming off of a 9-win season in Colorado and translate that to the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, he was a former player who has had success at the college level already. So there's obviously a logic there.
I'm not crushing it. I think that there's a world where this can work. There's also a world where this becomes just an outright
It does seem like a lot of hype. I know what you mean.
Something like where it's more about hype than it is about wins, which Dallas Cowboy fans will be like, oh, we've seen this before, which again, I'd say the same playbook. But then there's another part of this where you have to feel just a bit exhausted by the whole thing when Jason Witten's name comes up too. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's obviously not a huge surprise. That's the other thing. Like, why they don't have to rush to get Jason Witten in the building. They can interview him anytime they want.
Yeah, but why is Jason Witten a candidate? At least Deion has been coaching.
Witten's been coaching high school, right? And he's been killing it.
Great. That's what I was told about Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday was coaching high school.
Witten, I think, is like high school coach of the year. Like, I think he's had some success.
Do you think you can go from high school coach to NFL coach?
I mean, Jason Witten, not normally, but Jason Witten had a 20-year career. It's unorthodox, but I mean, Josh McCown almost directly became a coach with no coaching experience. It's not in the NBA. It happens every day. I mean, guys are 32 years old and put in that chair. I don't think Jason Witten is like, it's outside the box, but it's certainly, would you be shocked? No. And he has been coaching a little bit.
Okay. Here's where I'd give Deion the nod over Jason Witten. At least Deion is putting together staffs and good staffs.
Deion would be a much more sensible candidate. I agree.
Yeah, bring Pat Shurmur with you, who has NFL experience. Giants fans, close your ears, but Pat Shurmur does have experience as being a good offensive coordinator. Bring with you Warren Sapp. I don't know. I didn't think that was going to work in Colorado, but I guess it does. Bring your staff. I just think this was not like, maybe the news about moving on from McCarthy was a bit welcome by Dallas Cowboy fans just to shake things up. But I don't get the sense anyone's too thrilled about Deion.
Well, also, I think one more name, by the way. If he really wants Kellen Moore, I think it actually works out great for Jerry Jones that he doesn't have to look at how many people, like the Bears are interviewing, 45 candidates? Mm-hmm. Everybody's interviewing everybody. Like, maybe he doesn't want to have the pressure to hire an Aaron Glenn or a Ben Johnson. Maybe he wants his guy. Maybe he wants all those guys to get jobs so he can just pluck Kellen Moore off the Eagles.
Are you trying to make like the Dallas Cowboy fans feel better or worse?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I'm just saying, like, I don't think Jerry cost the team by waiting on Mike McCarthy, because I don't think Jerry wants to hire the same people that everyone else does. I think Jerry wants his guy, and I don't think, oh man, we didn't get to interview Joe Brady. What a shame. I don't think it's like that with Jerry. I think I get a sense that he is probably focused on somebody.
Okay. I mean, Mike McCarthy was not an outside the box candidate, though. Like, Mike McCarthy was presumably the safe candidate. He was, a Super Bowl winning head coach who had taken a year off, who had said he had learned the ways of analytics and he was ready to go and refreshed. Like, that was as middle of the road as possible. So now he's going to go outside the box.
Well, Kellen Moore is not super outside the box.
You're just saying that he doesn't want to interview the same guys who are getting.
Yeah, well, I do think there's going to be some pressure to hire Ben Johnson, and he might not want that, right? Or at least to offer Ben Johnson. I don't know if Ben Johnson says that. How Jerry is not about getting the best football coach. It's about getting the guy he likes. He's all McCarthy. Why did he hire McCarthy?
He thought he could win a Super Bowl.
No, because he had that sleepover.
Oh, right. The
Jerry,
sleepover.
look at after Bill Parcells, I think Jerry said, I want coaches that I like. I think he really is a relationship guy, and I think that's much more important to him than coldly looking at wins and losses. I don't think the one name I think you say Deion, what about Belichick? Belichick should have been the name. Obviously, if the fans could vote, I'm sure they would have put Bill Belichick in. Okay. Right? Who would not want them there? But Jerry's not going to, even if he said he was interested, I don't think he was ever going to do that.
Okay, so it's funny you bring up Belichick. So we had a couple different Belichick things that happened yesterday. First was a report. It wasn't a direct quote, but it was a report from that the commissioner of the ACC, his name is Jim Phillips, okay? The commissioner of the ACC is quietly concerned that Bill Belichick is going to leave North Carolina before the season starts. So there's an idea that he could embarrass North Carolina and go back to the NFL. Then we got a second report yesterday that in some kind of alternate universe, if Belichick didn't have a job and if the Cowboys, had decided earlier on the fate of McCarthy, that Belichick and the Cowboys would have been a good fit. What are we supposed to do with that information? So, what? Belichick does have a job. They have moved on from McCarthy. I didn't understand that. If you really wanted Belichick, you get rid of McCarthy and you bring Belichick in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he did. Can't you see Jerry Jones saying wow, if I bring in Bill Belichick, it's going to be all about Bill Belichick. I don't want to do that. I think that's ultimately why they didn't, during the season, reach out to his people.
Yeah, well, that's just a shame for Cowboy fans because it's one thing if it's Belichick, but that's the philosophy from here on out. It's not who's the best candidate. It's who's the one who's going to placate Jerry's ego or who's the one who's going to not take up too much shine. Well, I got news for you. Deion Sanders is going to take a lot of shine away from Jerry. If they go down this road, which looks like they're doing, Deion is the only one who can take the spotlight away from Jerry.
But the calculus is very different with Deion. First of all, Jerry loves talking about how they won in the 90s, and Deion was part of that. So it's kind of a throwback to when Jerry signed Deion. So he's kind of responsible for Deion's success in his mind. Also, Deion is not going to be get his hands into the personnel GM. So Jerry, Deion is going to do the Deion thing, and it's compartmentalized. Like Bill Parcells comes in, he wants to shop for the groceries and whatever. He's going to pick all the players. He's going to do everything. Deion is clearly not going to do everything. Like Deion doesn't have there's not enough time in the week for Deion to do, he does 27 hours of media.
He's got a TV show.
He's got there's no way. I think Jerry would still get a lot of football credit if they won because everyone knows Deion is not a micromanager.
Okay, so we're talking about Deion Sanders, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys now have an opening for their head coach. Now, here's the funny thing, though. You're saying that Deion wants no say over personnel, except for the most important position on the field, which is he wants to coach his son. He wants to coach Shedeur. I don't know how Shedeur could find his way to the Cowboys unless the Sanders family wants to pull off the ultimate power play. Even something bigger than what the Mannings pulled off with Eli.
Or Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant found himself down to 13.
Yeah, Kobe, that was a big one. And Arm Tellem basically told every team, don't draft him or he's not coming.
Yeah, and that's amazing when you look back on that because Kobe was great and he was an all-time prospect, but he wasn't LeBron.
He was out of high school. Well, LeBron in that way, but...
No, I mean, he wasn't quite as good as LeBron was in high school. Is that fair to say? He was really, really good. One of the great prospects of all time, but he had a lot of guts to do that. And I don't know if Deion can figure this out. And that's why I think if I had to do a show bet right now, I would bet you confidently that he goes back to Colorado because I don't think he's going to be able to coach his son. And he did say, what was the tweet in the middle of the night that Adam Schefter put out that I called Deion and Deion said, I love Colorado. Could you read that as a thanks but no thanks?
Well, but that's not all that tweet said.
So the tweet was to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful.
Yeah, it's kind of all that said. There wasn't really. I thought he was trying to close off the reports to some extent.
Wait, hold on. But EJ was just about to read it.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying. So it says, to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, the coaches, our student body, and the community.
There's two ways to read that. One is he kind of saved it this is all very intriguing, but I do love Colorado, which you would say for a couple reasons. One, you don't want people negative recruiting against you on the college trail. And two, you want to maintain a little bit of leverage.
That's true. Or you could also read it as I'm happy here. I mean, there are a lot of attractive things in Colorado for him right now.
Yeah, but the two most attractive things about Colorado, I think, just walked out the door, which is Shedeur and Travis Hunter.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's going to be a little easier for him to win at Colorado than it would with the Cowboys.
That's
also too.
Is that true?
I mean, he's really killing it right now because they got that left tackle came in who was the top recruit, and we're like, well, he's great. I mean, he was fantastic. They got two amazing quarterback guys who came in. Caden Salter's probably going to be an NFL guy, and Juju Lewis is definitely an NFL guy. So I don't know. I feel like he seems to have a succession plan for Travis Hunter and Shedeur. Maybe I'm being way over optimistic. The other thing, too, is college football, there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of opportunity. The Cowboys are stuck in a lot of bad personnel situations. They have a very expensive quarterback. They have a star cornerback who's making a lot of money who's very hurt. They have one up-and-coming superstar on defense who's very, very hurt. And then they have to pay Micah Parsons, and they cannot, for the life of them, find a second receiver. Now, what are they going to do in the draft? I already told you what's happening there.
The Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, they're going to draft a running back, which is good. But it's I just don't think Deion, if he's very analytical about that, it's going to be wow, I don't know if I can win here.
855-212-4227. Yeah, you had Troy Aikman last night on Monday Night Football Countdown saying that he doesn't think the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job is as coveted as people may think, which is a pretty big admission from someone who, at times waves the pom-poms for Dallas. And Deion's his former teammate. it would seem pretty coveted, I think, if Deion went there. No?
What coveted?
Like, that
Oh.
returns a little glamour. I mean, not that Mike McCarthy was a Super Bowl winning head coach. There's nothing glamorous about his personality, but he did have gravitas.
No, but it's not about the glamour or the glitz. It's about the control. He's saying like Jerry is going to butt his head into this and it's going to be an impossible job to coach. Like Ben Johnson's not going to want that because he's not going to be able to build the team he wants. I think that was his point, right? That Jerry's too interventionist.
I think that's part of it, but I
think that's it. I don't think there's another part. What's the other part?
Well, I think the other part is, I think that the shine has come off the star. And I think we see that in some of the callers who call us, who are Cowboy fans, who are kind of feel done. They feel over. They feel, I don't know, just uninspired.
But I don't think that's what Aikman was getting at. To Troy Aikman, the Cowboys are a big deal. I think it was, you can't win here. Like, Mike McCarthy is a good coach, but when Jerry Jones says, I'm going to go all in, and then you don't get me the players, what's he supposed to do? Mike McCarthy had no prayer here.
I think there's a reality that the reason why I don't think this is a very attractive job, because when you have this ownership in this front office situation, you're always going to be a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be signing Dak Prescott at the very last minute, screwing up your cap situation. You'll be signing CeeDee Lamb to the last-ditch effort until you get it, cap situation gets screwed up. Mike McCarthy, you don't fire him until his contract expires. So now, if the Lions keep winning, they cannot talk to anybody on the Lions staff. If any of these guys that are coveted, potentially, that are in the playoffs, because they missed this first window because they had McCarthy under contract, they've now lost out on talking to these guys. Now, maybe these guys will say, hey, it's the Cowboys, I'll wait. But to me, like, if I was Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn or anybody in the playoffs looking at the team, I'd say, why would I want to go to that? Like, to me, this is a front office that's not cutting edge.
It's reactive,
it's
not
reactive.
proactive.
It's not proactive. It's to me, if you go there, you're going to be playing behind the 8 ball, and you guys do that with the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Hold on, though. The one counter to that is you might get a little more time than other places. Like, Jerry's loyal. Mike McCarthy got 5 years. Nowadays, 5 years is kind of a long time for a head coach. Unless you're really winning right away. The Mike Tomlins, Andy Reid's, John Harbaugh's, like, that's the exception.
But I don't know what it's like for the coaches, but we've seen players who are still on the team and players who have left who have said it is miserable here.
Wow.
Like, yes, we've won, and yes, we've been a team in the spotlight, but these tours, all the attention, the pressure, like, to do all this and put up with all this crap, and then when you lose, become like the national headline.
Yeah.
It's like it wears on you. I know no coaches were in those articles that came out this year, so I don't know if coaches feel that way. But I would imagine it would have trickled down to them as well. Like, you got to deal with all this crap, and then also have the weight of the world of having to win a Super Bowl.
To be honest, you're making a case for Deion. Because I think Deion doesn't feel that same kind of pressure. He is, this Hall of Fame resume that he can always fall back on. No matter what happens, he was one of the greatest players ever.
I guess my problem with Deion, though, is I feel like it would be them kind of leaning into the worst thing about the Dallas Cowboys.
The nostalgia?
That it's all sizzle and no steak. That it's all like glam. Like, Deion probably have no problem with tours coming through his practices, with having the people come into his meeting. Like, he would probably be actually great at that. I think that does not help you win football games, and the players have clearly felt like that has been a distraction. To me, they be leaning into the worst things about the Dallas Cowboy brand, the Dallas Cowboy organization, and I think they be going backwards instead of forwards.
Jerry doesn't want to hire Ben Johnson. He doesn't want any of that stuff. He wants to hire Chan Gailey and Dave Campo and Wade Phillips. Like, he wants low-end hires. That is his natural thing. Like, Mike McCarthy was not hot when he hired him. Like, Mike McCarthy was, when you looked up retread in the dictionary, Mike McCarthy's face was there. Like, he does not like the sizzle hire because he did it with Parcells, and I just think it really burned him. I don't know why. It's just like you always hear that out of Dallas. Like, he hated it so much that he's like, never again. He does not want the hot guy. So he wants to wait and get some like lesser guy.
The other part, too, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, is that I think Jerry, they also don't want to spend a lot. I don't think they want to spend
well, that's curious.
$12 million.
Is that why they hired Chan Gailey and Dave Campo back in the day?
I don't know if that necessarily is the reason, but it could be a reason before Belichick got maybe desperate for an NFL job. As Belichick was making reportedly like $20 million a year.
They have the richest franchise in all of sports. I don't get it. Why would he cheap out on these small things? I keep hearing that, but I don't understand it.
I don't know. I mean, there was a report that Ben Johnson was holding out for like $15 million a year. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, he'll get that easy.
855-212-4227. I do not see Ben Johnson as a sure thing. I know everyone else is penciling him in for the Hall of Fame. I don't see it. 855-212-4227. Okay, we have a lot more to do, including the latest from last night. Vikings lay an egg. They're out of the playoffs. The future for Sam Darnold. And do the Rams have a shot against Perloff's Eagles? We tackle all of that next. You want to call in about the Cowboys? Go ahead. 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I might swerve in that corner, whoa, whoa. Hold on tight, cause I tweaking this till it go.
LiAngelo's world, we're all living in it. LiAngelo Ball signed to Def Jam, $13 million. And his life rights, I think.
$8 million guaranteed.
Good for him. Rebound.
That's running back money.
Never lost.
And LeVar somewhere chuckles. Andrew Bogusch has headlines for us on a very busy Tuesday. What's up?
It has been the topic of the morning. Did Sam Darnold's remarkable resurgence disappear in just over a week? The Lions befuddling him in the regular season finale with the NFC's top seed on the line, and then the Rams beat him up last night in the wild card game.
Shotgun snap, Darnold on 2nd down and 10. Looking left all the way, has to pull it down. He's thrown down at the 10. The Los Angeles Rams extend their postseason record as Desjuan Johnson has the 9th of the night.
I think they tackled him one more time on the way to the bus last night. JB Long, Rams radio, 9 sacks, the most in Rams postseason history. They tie the all-time postseason mark. Those 9 sacks costing Minnesota 82 yards. Darnold fumbled on one of them. Jared Verse picked it up and ran 57 yards for a touchdown as LA built a 24-3 halftime lead. Not a bad start, says Matthew Stafford.
To be able to come out and play really a complete game, offense. We did a nice job there early in the game, kind of getting the lead, and then our defense just went crazy and was attacking the quarterback, making big plays, scoring on defense, doing a great job of getting us the ball back.
Stafford threw for 209 and 2 scores. He and the Rams winning 27-9 in Arizona and now get to play in Philadelphia Sunday afternoon. Now to recap, Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders have discussed Mike McCarthy's old job. Deion said the Cowboys are intriguing, but he loves Colorado. Then apparently he said, I don't know, when asked what's next for him and Jerry. McCarthy, meanwhile, expected to get interest from the Bears and Saints at least now that he's on the open market. And Bo Nix revealed yesterday he's been playing since late November with multiple small fractures in his back. Texas wideout Isaiah Bond declaring for the NFL draft, but Penn State running backs Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are returning to school. I was told they were back, but then the Pistons came to town.
Bounce pass, Hardaway passes it up to Beasley. 3 more. Same basic spot, and it's 124-119.
Malik Beasley, 2 late threes to close out a 124-119 Pistons win at MSG. The Knicks have now lost 5 of 7. They're just 11 games over 500, 3 full games behind the Celtics for second in the East.
I hope you have a minor inconvenience today, but it ruins your entire day.
Hope you win the lottery and lose your ticket.
Play them if you want to.
EJ, this really is not directed at you, because you're not the one screaming, we're back.
But that's why it's worse, because I feel like I'm being rather reasonable, and I still got to deal with this.
No, that's why I said they were back. That was a direct quote of Manny.
Guess. There are 3 people on earth who care about a Knicks season in early January. Manny, EJ, and Tom Thibodeau. Like, what's the difference?
Why do you think Knicks fans? Knicks fans are crazy.
Or do they really get into like these regular season minutia? But it's so irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. In fact, that's why people criticize Thibodeau, right?
I'm just telling you. I've lived this. I was born in it, molded by it. Like, this is every regular season game matters to Knicks fans. I don't ask you to go to Knicks Twitter, but if you go, you'll see people yelling fire Tibbs. It's crazy.
Because Cade scored 32 last night?
Because the team looks tired and sluggish, and all the things you expect to hear from Knicks fans about a Tom Thibodeau team in January. It's not surprising.
Isn't the whole world sick though right now? Everyone's got the flu. Are we sure that not just half the Knicks don't have the flu? We found out that Minka Fitzpatrick had the flu.
Oh, really?
And Patrick Queen did too. Patrick Queen, he had a terrible game, and he had a flu. I felt kind of bad killing the Steelers' run defense.
I know. I think that's it. Now we found out also Bo Nix had back fractures. Like, sometimes these guys have reasons for why they don't play well.
And if I was one of them, I would tell everyone.
Yeah,
you would know if I was sick or hurt before the game.
Fitzpatrick's got a pretty big contract, not to get thrown in the air like a child by Derrick Henry.
I just think something's going around.
Yeah, it's called.
You don't say.
It's called lack of good football. Whatever. Get out of here. I don't want to hear this flu crap. And by the way, the Knicks, you guys are all insane to care about. Like, none of the good teams care about what's happening now, including the Knicks. This is stupid.
I live and die by every whistle.
So stupid.
By every shoe squeak, I live and die by it.
Virtual Jalen Brunson traded jerseys with Manny, and Manny passed out.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
I saw that post.
Yeah, I did it on 2K. Yeah, we had a little jersey swap. It was the greatest moment of my life.
Wait, Manny, have you made a decision on Perloff's decent proposal? He offered you $40 for your Supersonics throwback hat that you're wearing today.
You see, here's the thing. I would seriously consider it if my brother had not left the tag on and I saw that it was the exact same price that Perloff is offering. Had he offered $15-20 more, maybe. Also, it was a gift from my brother, so...
Okay, wait, but... counter.
For 15 more bucks, you'd ignore the fact that it was a gift from your brother?
Yeah, probably.
I'm surprised the way you speak of your brother. You're not taking it for just $15.
Wait, hold on.
Just to spite your brother. You're selling it for cheap.
Perloff, basically, Manny's saying 55.
Well, I could just go online and get it for, I think I could get it for 40. I was actually thinking, I've already Googled Supersonics hats.
So basically, you were just trying to trade with Manny or buy Manny's hat to save on shipping?
Convenience.
All right. Well, I guess no deal.
55.
It's a pretty sweet hat.
Let me think about it. Yeah, I might do that. Let me get online here. I'm like Jerry Jones. I'm going to be cheap about this.
And you're going to wait a week.
Take it to the very end.
But then I wonder, every time I wear it, is everyone going to look at me and say, that's Manny's hat?
Yes.
I will.
Yep.
It's going to...
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking now I might buy my own Sonics hat.
Well, if it's the same one, we're still going to think you ripped off Manny.
True. That's funny. I have a Sonics hat that I've worn before. Now I feel like I got to wear it this week. Just give you guys all Sonics envy.
Sonics envy. All right. Well, doesn't look like there's any deal going through.
All right. Thank you, Bogusch. Our next guest I know is just as big a 90s NBA fan as you and I are, Maggie. I believe so. Probably was rooting for against Sean Kemp in Seattle. For our purposes, he's also the host of the Doomsday podcast. That's Matt Mosley, longtime Cowboys reporter, host ESPN Central. Matt, you love NBA from the 90s. I know that you and I are in sync on this one, right?
Yeah. I was a Mavs fan, and the 90s, well, they were pretty miserable until a man named Dirk showed up very late in the 90s. But
wait, were you mixed into the
Detlef Schrempf to the Sonics? And, Mavs were going through some rough things. They had Jim Jackson, Jamal Mashburn, and Jason Kidd, the three J's we thought would lead us to the promised land. And there became a fight over Tony Braxton.
Right, as I say, weren't you involved? I thought romantically you were still single at the time. Weren't you linked to Tony at that time? I seem to recall that.
I was a little young. At the time. I may have still been in high school, but yeah, Tony was. She was certainly part of that whole scene, and Ross Perot Jr. was the owner of the Mavs back then. Far different than Mark Cuban. Ross did not get as involved as Mark has.
You know, Matt, my best friend grew up in Dallas and said they used to see Ross Perot riding his horse around their neighborhood while she was going to high school at Ursuline Academy in Dallas. But thank you so much for joining us. We know that this is a really busy time, especially with the big double. It's kind of like double news yesterday. First, that Mike McCarthy is out. And then secondly, that Deion Sanders is a top candidate to take this job. Let's start with the Deion part of it. You know, what takes this, Matt, from intrigue and how both sides are intrigued by each other to possible? What takes it from theoretical to possible with Deion Sanders maybe becoming the next head coach of the Cowboys?
You know, I'm trying to think when it was. It might have been actually last season when Deion was kind of blowing up at Colorado before. So 2 seasons ago, his first season at Colorado, I asked Jerry about him, and Jerry really lit up and just could not, stop talking about how amazing he was and how much he meant to him and that kind of thing. Now, to me, this is a couple things. Jerry loves just the sound of this and how much fun this is to think about and the headlines that it draws. So it's kind of fun to talk about, but like I literally give it like a 5% chance of happening. Like it does not feel like a Jerry move, and he really craves people that have had NFL head coaching experience. And certainly Deion has not. And the only time he's gone away from that in recent years is, Garrett. And Garrett was a homegrown, much like, Deion's part of the family, but not like Garrett. Garrett's dad was a scout for the organization. He'd been part of it for a long time. Yeah. So I don't think this is going to happen, but he does love Deion and like what Deion brings in terms of, just the eyeballs, the excitement, everything that he is. But I think deep down, Jerry knows he's not going to hire him as a head coach.
So the Cowboys sit at number 12 in the draft right now, Matt. Is there any chance that they hire Deion and could find a way to get Shedeur Sanders, or is that just impossible? And they also have Dak Prescott under contract. So is there any way that Deion could coach either him or Travis Hunter in Dallas?
No, I don't think the quarterback thing can happen because of Dak, and you're paying him $60 million a year, and basically it would alienate Dak if you went after Shedeur, and the whole thing would be, that would become a mess. And the Travis Hunter is very interesting. I don't know exactly where he'll go. You guys you got the Perloff big board, I'm sure, that you're looking at. I don't really have that's a more of a possibility than Shedeur. So I do not think Deion or Jerry would help manipulate that.
Matt Mosley is joining us. Doomsday Podcast, been covering the Cowboys for a long, long time and knows this organization inside and out. Now, Matt, putting the Deion stuff aside for a second, right? I thought the perfect candidate for the Dallas Cowboys, for their head coach, is actually Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, Texas guy, played for the Cowboys. I think, Jerry watched the Detroit Lions hand the Cowboys their worst home loss since 1988. And Aaron Glenn, kind of befuddled Dak that day, totally got the best of McCarthy. Will be able to take concepts from the Lions offense because he's been in the building for so long. Like, there's a lot of good things about Aaron Glenn. Who do you think is the ideal candidate for the Cowboys if it's not Deion?
Well, I love Aaron, and Aaron did spend a little time with the Cowboys at the end of his playing career, and Aaron went to Texas A&M. So, yeah, you're right. There are some ties that Jerry would really appreciate, but again, he doesn't have the head coaching experience that others have, and so I don't think it'll be Aaron. I think Jerry, the one thing he mentioned to me last week after the Cowboys' final game against Washington, I said, do you have a list, if this thing didn't work out with Mike? And he said, yeah, I do. And there's a couple of people on the list that have won Super Bowls. And that's what leads me to believe that I think John Gruden and Pete Carroll are both in play here. I think John's trying to get back in, and it might not look like it with all his Barstool stuff he's doing, but I really think he wants back in. And I think Jerry's the one guy that can make it happen, because while it was a very rough deal when he was fired from the Raiders, and the NFL basically seemingly forced that with some of those emails and things that came out and the controversy off the field. I think Jerry does not mind things like that. Like Jerry would almost delight in making Roger Goodell uncomfortable, if that is the case. And so Gruden is in play, and I think Pete Carroll makes sense because Pete checks all the boxes, and Jerry, who's like 83 now, he's not going to have that big of a problem hiring a 73-year-old where it may give other people pause. So I would put those two over. I would put those two over Glenn, and then the thing about Detroit is that Jerry is enamored. That game you're referencing, Maggie, was the Dan Campbell came in and just like completely clowned on the Cowboys, and it really, Jerry both was humiliated, but he also, the showman in him kind of loved it. He kind of thought it was funny what Dan Campbell was doing. And Campbell, if you don't recall, did some tricky, weird stuff with his one of his eligible, tight ends or whatever, because he'd been screwed over by call the year before. And so Jerry really wants Dan Campbell. Obviously, he can't have him. So who, in Jerry's mind, is the closest to Campbell that he could get is Jason Witten. So I think what you're going to see here is, I don't think he can make Witten the head coach. I mean, that's too big of a jump from, like a private high school in the Dallas area where he is winning state championships, and high school football is very big here, as you know. He can't do that, but I think he'll try to get Witten on this staff, whoever he brings in, and then I think Witten becomes the future head coach.
Ooh, I like that, Matt. Hey, real quick, we're running to a break. I want you to dismiss 3 offensive geniuses that have been linked in the past. Kellen Moore, Lincoln Riley, and Cliff Kingsbury, and maybe also Steve Sarkisian. What about a guy like that? Do they have any chance in this coaching hire?
I mean, I think he'd like to talk to Sark just to kind of pick his brain. So I don't know if Sark will do it or not, because he's doing really well at UT, and that's been a good fit. I think of all the people you said, Kellen Moore makes the most sense because he has the relationship with Dak. He's called plays here. I think they have respect for him. I think they just got to decide if he's the guy, that can stand in front of the team. And I'm not totally sure about that, but I think of all those people you just mentioned, Kellen Moore would be way ahead of everybody else.
Matt, can't tell you how much we appreciate this. This is going to be fun times for you guys in Dallas. I thought Mike McCarthy was coming back, so I was a little bit stunned yesterday that they actually did part ways, and now the search for a new head coach is on. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate that. We didn't have enough time to get into the Belichick of it all. With the report from Jordan Schultz yesterday that for what it's worth, Bill Belichick would have been interested in the Cowboys job, and it's believed that Dallas would have been interested in him had he known the position would become available. But, I don't think Belichick was going to wait around for ifs.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Or Belichick screwed this whole thing up, and he didn't realize 5 teams would have made him an offer. It's possible that Belichick miscalculated it. I know he's a genius and all, but I do think he might have misread the market.
Possible, or he didn't want to be lumped in with interviews with Liam Cohen and Joe Brady and these guys who he probably thinks are, beneath him and are not nearly as accomplished, and didn't want to lose out to Cliff Kingsbury or something.
But he knows the game. He was once Liam Cohen himself. I mean, every young coach gets their first hire. But I think the John Gruden of it all, geez Louise. Did he just say John Gruden? And Matt is not messing around. Did he just say Jerry Jones might hire John Gruden? We thought Deion was a lot going on. That's the most going on.
Yeah, let's unpack that. We got to take a quick break. Maggie and Perloff, the Dallas Cowboys looking for a head coach. We dive into the John Gruden aspect next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Dallas Cowboys head coaching search in full effect right now after Mike McCarthy was can't say let go. They just didn't give him a new contract yesterday, waiting till the full extent of his old contract ran out. And we talked with Matt Mosley in the last segment. He's been covering the Cowboys for a long, long time. If you missed it, you can hit the rewind function on the Odyssey app. You can always download the Maggie and Perloff podcast. He thought John Gruden was a real candidate here.
Yeah.
So John Gruden checks the boxes of being a former head coach. Being a former head coach.
Well,
won a Super Bowl, I guess, it was a long time ago now, but he did win a Super Bowl.
Well, also, too, they probably run in the same circles. I mean, think about John Gruden got in trouble because he was emailing with Bruce Allen, right? Like, there's definitely, there's a lot of history. I mean, these guys all were a big part of the NFL from 1995 through 2010. They've probably been at, 30 conventions together. Like, I think Jerry would be comfortable with John Gruden. Now, I don't think it'll happen because of John Gruden's lawsuit and what he did to cause that lawsuit. I still think he's toxic because he was linked to the Jets too. And the Jets then backed off that pretty quickly. I know Jerry has a lot of power, but to bring John Gruden back after what happened, to me, seems like a step too far. I just don't see it happening.
So the latest I could find about John Gruden's lawsuit, he's suing the NFL because he thinks that the commissioner's office leaked those emails where he was making racist and homophobic comments in order to embarrass him, right? So the latest I could see is that Gruden's going to get a full Nevada Supreme Court review of the lawsuit. That's the highest court, and we're going to see, I think this is going to happen sometime in the spring.
Well, I don't think it's the case. I think it's what caused the case.
No, of course.
Yeah, I think that's a real problem for a franchise to have to deal with. Those when he gets hired, those emails are going to go into every story.
I get that. I think that there's that part of it. So, yeah, that's going to be a tough sell.
That's the problem. I think it's too hard of a sell.
But to be honest, Gruden is back in our lives. Now, he got hired by Barstool Sports, which has maybe a different type of, they don't care at all about what the outside response would be. They're kind of, they have this sort of maverick renegade kind of thing. But the names that John Gruden called Roger Goodell in those emails, people thought was also, along with the racist and homophobic things, also was a big hang up. Goodell himself was telling people, don't hire John Gruden. Jerry Jones would be the one guy who would give the proverbial stiff arm to Roger Goodell and might even, as Matt said, kind of like the fact that it could irk the commissioner because Jerry and Roger Goodell have not seen eye to eye on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that part I like. That does make sense.
It's a revenge hire.
Right, but I think that Jerry and the Cowboys will be underestimating the public the blowback. I just know what the stories would be like because a lot of people, everyone knows who the Cowboys are, and people vaguely remember John Gruden, but it's going to cross over to mainstream that the Cowboys are hiring John Gruden. This is what he said. It'll be such a huge part of the hire. John Gruden, when he's in the media, they don't break. He gets hired by Barstool. That's not front page news, and those emails are not going to be there. I think a lot of people forgot about that stuff, and it's going to come. It's going to come with Gruden, especially if he wants the Cowboys. Don't you think the New York Times would lead with that, and the New York Post?
I don't think that the Cowboys could care less what the New York Times are writing about, number one. And two, I think that there's probably a large slice of people, and I'd be curious to know from you guys, how large do we think this slice of population is, who say it was his private emails. And what someone says in private is not the person they are in public. Now, I think that what you say in private kind of reveals who you are, the real you. But I think there's a lot of people who would say, well, that was really nobody's business. He never intended it to be public. And how could you judge him for a private correspondence when he was not in the league? He was a broadcaster at the time. He wasn't a coach at the time. And that everyone should be able to move on from that.
I don't think
or get a second chance.
Yeah. I don't think most people. I think a large chunk of people are not going to dig their fingers into the story that much. They're going to say, "Oh, they hired John Gruden. Well, yeah, what's the deal with him?" And then they read, "Oh my God, he wrote that." I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with that. I don't think they're going to care. Private email, Goodell, that's all great. I just think this could play out really badly because he's not that great a coach either. Might as well hire Pete Carroll and not have any of that headache.
We usually reserve our poll questions for stuff that's kind of silly. Do you ever share bathing suits, or do the singers in rock bands need to have a good voice and random stuff like that? But I'm kind of curious, EJ, if you put a poll up, would you have a problem with the Cowboys hiring John Gruden? I'm really curious what the results of that may be. I know Twitter's not real life. I get that.
But our audience is very sports heavy too.
Right, so they'll know what's in those emails.
Yeah. But wait, I'm just saying, like the casual audience might be reminded in a big way what's in those emails. Like my wife will be like, "Wait, they hired this guy?" She's not going to know any of the nuance.
Thank you, EJ Stewart. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez, Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Matt Mosley, who joined us. You guys, the Weedos, the coffee drinkers, the callers, you're the best. See you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.